Dear guests, kindly take your seats, please. हाँ सर. May I request all the participants to quickly take their seats, please? May I request all of you to kindly stand up, please, to welcome our chief guest, Minister of State for Education, Srimati Annapurna Devi ji. Please take your seats. Yes? Respected chief guest and all the dignitaries, a very, very warm welcome to all of you. Namaskar from IIT Bombay. We have gathered here today morning for the awareness workshop on National Credit Framework. I once again take this opportunity to welcome our chief guest, Minister of State for Education, Srimati Annapurna Devi ji. Ma'am, kindly please join us on the dais. Also, our Director, Professor Subhashish Chaudhary, sir. Vinita Agarwal, ma'am, please join us on the dais. Thank you so much. May I request Director of IIT Bombay, Professor Subhashish Chaudhary, to kindly welcome all of you.
Honorable Minister of State and Education, Srimati Annapurna Devi ji, Dr. Vinita Agarwal ji, other distinguished guests, participants in this special program today, my colleagues from IIT Bombay, and others invitees. Today we are here on a special kind of program, as all of you may be knowing, that being a diverse country like India, with so many states, so many languages, so many cultures, okay, each having traditionally its own way of defining what education is supposed to be. Now, that's of course excellent, and we have been doing well, but the fact is that as a country, what is the kind of curricular framework that would actually define what is a common set of program? And that is actually the goal of this, and it has been necessitated by a wonderful document, which is NEP, National Education Policy, that was done in 2020. Based on that, we need to realize and standardize the curricular framework. And with a view to that, we are having this special program. Of course, if you say that if you go back to the long history of the tradition of a country like India, education come probably the first thing in the dawn of civilization in India. And probably I can go back to more than almost 3,000 years ago. Probably, this kind of thing, if I can relate, the case of, you might have read in Manduka Upanishad, your Chandogya Upanishad, something like when Aruni Uddalak, was his son, was coming back, Shetaketu, and saying that, I had already taken a training from my guru, Then it turned out that that was not enough. There was something more to be learned. So what in today's term I call that as that one guru is not always enough because there is so much of multidisciplinarity. As the system evolves, you need to go to different teachers. Of course, for Shetketu, his father did the job. He was very much, I would say, privileged. But for other people, you need to go to different gurus to get taught on different topics. And based on that, we had probably the world's first one as Takshila University. And then subsequently, we know that the university concept, where you go to one place to get hold of many such faculty members. Today we call them the teachers, the gurus, right? And then, of course, Nalanda. And then the story, of course, it went to the Europe, Renaissance, so many, universities. And now we are back in 2020 with NEP, and we have to say that how to do it. Now, this also requires another very interesting thing, that so far what we talked about studying from one particular university, let's say IIT Bombay, or somebody from University of Mumbai, University of Delhi. But sometimes we find that today is so much of knowledge that has been generated, right? Even one university sometimes is not enough, okay? Because we do not have all the experts that probably somebody wants to learn, because it is actually merging of several such disciplines. So then the question comes quite naturally, can we leverage the other universities, okay, whatever the faculty, the teaching, the other thing that is there, okay, and I can take my courses from multiple places and build up my own curriculum, and I get my degree. And if you look at it, all these academic bank of credit and others come with that kind of a spirit, okay, so that finally I get a degree, but I leverage the strength of the teachers at all different places, all facilities. So my friends, it's a wonderful opportunity for all of us to look into that. And in today's, this half-a-day program that we have here, that it is actually going to tell us that whenever you want to build up such kind of a system, it needs to have a framework. And that's the framework, the National Curricular Framework that we are talking about. And we should all try to leverage that and try to see that it gets implemented in different universities, colleges. So there is an uniformity across that. And we are delighted that we are getting experts, okay, those who are actually designed this such kind of a curricular framework, to listen to them. I hope that this would be very useful to all of you, and this would also be helpful in lieu of, in terms of how this percolates down to the main reason why we are there, that's the students. The students of India broadly, how they benefit, okay? I'm sure you will all get that feeling that yes, this is how to design it so that our students are finally the thing which is the citizens of tomorrow and deliver what this country needs. I am also delighted that we have the privilege of having our Honorable Mantriji here, okay? This is her second visit, but I hope that she will continue to visit us here, and she's, I am sure that we will definitely benefit from her margdarshan that she will give it to us. It is with the, finally, such kind of people who define what is the vision for India, vision for education, and we are delighted to have Mrs. Annapurna Devi ji. So thank you for coming to IIT Bombay. We are delighted that you are here, and let's hope to listen from her. Thank you so much, and I wish all of you have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you very much, sir. I now request our chief guest, Minister of State for Education, Srimati Annapurna Devi ji, to kindly share her thoughts, please.
नमस्कार। आज के इस NCrF वर्कशॉप में उपस्थित IIT बॉम्बे के डायरेक्टर श्री शुभाशीष चौधरी जी, शिक्षा मंत्रालय, NCBT, UGC, AICT के अधिकारीगण, केंद्रीय एवं राज्य विश्वविद्यालयों के प्रतिनिधिगण, महाराष्ट्र, गुजरात और गोवा राज्य के शिक्षा विभाग के अधिकारीगण, शिक्षकगण और सभी उपस्थित महानुभाव। मैक्सिमम सिटी के नाम से प्रसिद्ध इस मुंबई शहर में आकर मुझे प्रसन्नता हुई और मुंबई को हमेशा जागने वाली नगरी के रूप में देखती हूँ, जो स्वयं को जगाती ही है और दूसरों को भी जगाए रखती है। और शिक्षा के परिप्रेक्ष्य में विचार करें तो माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी जिस तरह देश को एक नए तरीके से जगाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, उसमें कहीं न कहीं यह भाव भी परिलक्षित होता है। यह बड़े हर्ष का विषय है कि हमेशा जागने वाली नगरी मुंबई के इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी में नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क पर वर्कशॉप आयोजित किया गया है और ये वर्कशॉप नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क को दिशा और दशा प्रदान करेगा। और इसके लिए मैं आयोजक मंडल और सभी प्रतिभागियों को अपनी ओर से बधाई देती हूँ। साथियों, हमारे यहाँ कहा जाता है सा विद्या या विमुक्तये, यानी विद्या वह है जो हमें तमाम बंधनों यानी लिमिटेशन से मुक्त करती है। पर बड़ी विडंबना की बात है कि जो विद्या यानी शिक्षा हमें मुक्त करती है, हमारे देश में एक लंबे समय से वह स्वयं मुक्त नहीं हुई और वह कई प्रकार के बंधनों से बंधी रही। कभी इस पर गुलामगिरी की मानसिकता का बंधन रहा, कभी नौकरी के उद्देश्य का बंधन रहा, तो कभी यह आइडियोलॉजी के बंधन से बंधी रही। जिस हॉलिस्टिक अप्रोच के साथ शिक्षा दीक्षा होनी चाहिए, उसका पिछले लगभग 200 वर्षों से भी अधिक समय से अभाव रहा है। और कॉलोनियल शिक्षा पद्धति पर महात्मा गांधी जी का स्पष्ट मानना था कि वो व्यवस्था में भारतीय नई पीढ़ी अपने समाज से अलग थलग पड़ जाएगी और उन पर कैरियर और नौकरी वाली जो सोच हावी होगी वो बहुत, और ये कहीं ना कहीं ये हुआ भी, ये हम सब देख भी रहे हैं। तो महात्मा गांधी जी ने एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग, अनुभव के आधार पर सीखने में विश्वास रखते थे, जो हमें यह बताता है कि ज्ञान और कर्म अलग अलग नहीं है। मुझे हिंदी के महाकवि जयशंकर प्रसाद जी की वो कुछ पंक्ति याद आती है। कामायनी में उन्होंने ये कहा था, ज्ञान दूर कुछ क्रिया भिन्न है, इच्छा क्यों पूरी हो मन की। ज्ञान दूर कुछ क्रिया भिन्न है, इच्छा क्यों पूरी हो मन की। एक दूसरे से मिल न सके, यह विडंबना है जीवन की। अर्थात ज्ञान और कर्म का अंतराल जीवन की संपूर्णता में बाधक है और ज्ञान के स्रोत कक्षा की चारदीवारी तक ही नहीं सीमित रहनी चाहिए। साथियों, आज़ादी के बाद से अब तक कई बार इन विषयों पर चर्चा हुई, कई बैठकें हुई, कमेटियां बनाई गई, पर परिणाम वही ढाक के तीन पात। पर मुझे कहते हुए खुशी और गर्व होता है कि पिछले 7-8 वर्षों में माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के कुशल मार्गदर्शन और नेतृत्व में हमारे देश की शिक्षा व्यवस्था ने अपने एक नए लक्ष्य तय किए हैं और यह राष्ट्र नए संकल्प के साथ उन लक्ष्यों की ओर तेजी से आगे बढ़ा है। आज हमारे बच्चे और युवा कक्षाओं के बाहर विभिन्न गतिविधियों में शामिल होकर लर्निंग शुरू कर रहे हैं। साथियों, राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति 2020 के प्रमुख सिद्धांतों में से एक हॉलिस्टिक लर्निंग है। आप लोग अवगत हैं कि प्रारंभ में शिक्षाविदों और विशेषज्ञों ने बड़ी रुचि के साथ हॉलिस्टिक लर्निंग के बारे में चर्चा भी की, पर असली चुनौती यह थी कि इसे धरातल पर कैसे उतारा जाए। हॉलिस्टिक लर्निंग एक या दो जगहों पर मॉडल के रूप में लाने भर से ही तो काम पूरा नहीं हो सकता, बल्कि हॉलिस्टिक लर्निंग एक मूल शिक्षा मॉडल के रूप में देश में स्थापित हो, ये हम सबका लक्ष्य होना चाहिए। इसलिए देश भर में कई दौर के विचार विमर्श और बैठकों के बाद नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क का एक ड्राफ्ट तैयार किया गया और इसे पब्लिक डोमेन में भी रखा गया। आप लोगों ने भी देखा होगा और मैं स्वयं भी देखी और पाई कि ये ड्राफ्ट अपने दृष्टिकोण से क्रांतिकारी है और इसमें हमारी संपूर्ण शिक्षण प्रणाली को बदलने की क्षमता भी है और ये समग्र शिक्षण को वास्तविक और व्यवहारिक बनाने के लिए एक उपकरण प्रदान करता है। यह उन सभी बंदिशों और सीमाओं को हटाता है जो मैकाले के कॉलोनियल शिक्षा प्रणाली ने हम सब पर थोपी थी। जैसा कि मैंने पहले भी कहा कि महर्षि अरबिंदो, महात्मा गांधी और रविन्द्रनाथ टैगोर जैसे चिंतक और दूरदृष्टा शिक्षा को जीवन अनुभव से जोड़कर देखते थे। उनकी मान्यताओं के अनुरूप नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क सामान्य शैक्षणिक शिक्षा, कौशल शिक्षा और अनुभवात्मक शिक्षा सभी को एक ही मंच पर लाने का कार्य करेगा। और ये ड्राफ्ट कला, मानविकी और विज्ञान या व्यावसायिक या शैक्षणिक धाराओं के बीच करिकुलर, एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर या को करिकुलर के अंतर को मिटाने का भी कार्य करेगा। और आज जिस विषय को लेके वर्कशॉप आयोजित किया गया है और वो भी IIT बॉम्बे कैंपस में, निश्चित रूप से जो सोच NEP में है, जो सोच आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी की है, आज इस वर्कशॉप के माध्यम से हमें बहुत कुछ मिलेगा। चूँकि आप सभी विद्वत जन यहाँ पे उपस्थित हैं, सभी स्तरों पर व्यावसायिक और सामान्य शिक्षा के बीच अकादमिक समानता स्थापित करके हम अंत में एक ऐसे चरण में पहुँचेंगे जहाँ सीखने के विभिन्न तरीकों के बीच कोई अंतर नहीं होगा। यह सामान्य शिक्षा और कौशल या स्किल शिक्षा के बीच वर्टिकल और हॉरिजॉन्टल मोबिलिटी को बढ़ावा देगा। प्रस्तावित नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क देश में एजुकेशन और लर्निंग को फिर से परिभाषित करने के लिए आधार प्रदान कर सकता है। साथियों, IIT दशकों से अपनी डिग्री प्रोग्राम्स में क्रेडिट सिस्टम का उपयोग कर रही है और इन्हें देश भर में मान्यता प्राप्त है। ऐसे में IIT की ये जिम्मेदारी बनती है कि वो आगे आए और देश में सभी संस्थानों को राष्ट्रीय क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क को अपनाने के लिए प्रेरित करें। IITs ऐसे बेहतरीन संस्थान हैं जिन्होंने देश भर में अपना नाम और सम्मान कमाया है। इसलिए IIT ऐसी जगह पर नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क वर्कशॉप का आयोजन देश भर में इसकी स्वीकार्यता को बढ़ावा देने में मददगार साबित होगा। और यह मेरा विश्वास भी है कि और आप सब जो भी विद्वत जन यहाँ पे आए हुए हैं, निश्चित रूप से इसको बेहतर ढंग से कैसे लागू हो सके इसके बारे में भी आज इस वर्कशॉप के माध्यम से जो भी आपके अंदर कुछ अगर शंकाएं भी होंगी तो वो भी हमें लगता है इससे दूर भी होगा। हायर एजुकेशन, स्कूल एजुकेशन और स्किल एजुकेशन के लिए देश में केवल एक क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क होगा जो शिक्षा, कौशल और अनुभवात्मक शिक्षा और इसके विभिन्न आयामों की लर्निंग के क्रेडिट को एकत्रित करने के लिए मदर फ्रेमवर्क डॉक्यूमेंट होगा। शिक्षा, व्यावसायिक कौशल और अनुभवात्मक शिक्षा के लिए क्रेडिट को एकत्रित करना भविष्य में हमारे युवाओं के लिए बड़ा लाभकारी होगा और शिक्षा और कौशल को उनके लिए और अधिक आकांक्षी बनाएगा। साथियों, ये फ्रेमवर्क उन बच्चों के लिए खास लाभकारी होगा जिन्हें किसी कारणवश बीच में अपनी पढ़ाई ब्रेक करनी पड़ती है। फ्रेमवर्क सामान्य और कौशल शिक्षा में मल्टीपल एंट्री, मल्टीपल एग्जिट को सक्षम बनाता है। यह स्कूल, उच्च और कौशल शिक्षा के लिए एक अकादमिक बैंक ऑफ क्रेडिट के माध्यम से क्रेडिट को जमा करना और स्टोर करने के तरीके और तंत्र प्रदान करता है। यह आश्वस्तकारी है कि ड्राफ्ट छात्रों को उनकी प्रतिभा और रुचि के अनुसार मिडवे कोर्स, करेक्शन और मॉडिफिकेशन के विकल्प सहित उनके सीखने की पद्धति और करियर विकल्पों को चुनने की फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी भी सुनिश्चित करता है। NCrF संस्थानों की दृष्टि से भी अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण है। यह संस्थानों को सशक्त बनाएगा और उन्हें अपने अनुरूप पाठ्यक्रम निर्माण आदि के लिए आवश्यक शक्तियां भी प्रदान करेगा। यह क्रेडिट ट्रांसफर प्रावधानों के माध्यम से एजुकेशन के इंटरनेशनलाइजेशन में भी मदद करेगा। इस प्रकार हमारी शिक्षा की अंतर्राष्ट्रीय समकक्षता और मान्यता में भी वृद्धि होगी और ऐसे समय में जब हम विदेश में अपने संस्थान की शाखा खोलने की दिशा में अग्रसर हैं, अन्य देशों में भारतीय शिक्षा और कौशल की स्वीकृति बढ़ेगी और विदेशी विश्वविद्यालयों और संस्थानों के साथ हमारा आदान प्रदान भी बढ़ेगा। साथियों, मैं चाहूँगी कि इन कार्यशालाओं में हम NCrF के लाभों पर चर्चा करें और विभिन्न संगठनों और संस्थानों को यदि कोई संदेह और आशंका हो तो उसे दूर भी करें। हमारे जो भी प्राथमिक लक्ष्य हैं उसे जल्द से जल्द अपना विश्वविद्यालय, राज्य बोर्ड, NCERT द्वारा अपनाया जाएगा। जहाँ जितने भी हमारे विद्वान उपस्थित हैं सभी लोग यहाँ से वापस जाते समय एक रणनीति तैयार करके जाएंगे। जब आप इस फ्रेमवर्क को लागू करेंगे तब क्या चुनौतियाँ हो सकती है, हमें ये भी आज एक तय करके भी जाना है। क्या क्या इसमें चुनौतियाँ हो सकती है, क्या क्या शंकाएं हैं। परामर्श के लिए हितधारक कौन होंगे? छात्र, शिक्षकों, माता पिता, अकादमिक विशेषज्ञों और परोपकारी संगठनों को साथ लाने का सबसे अच्छा तरीका क्या होना चाहिए, यह सब आप भी सोचें। और इन कार्यशालाओं में हमें उन संभावनाओं पर भी चर्चा करनी चाहिए जहां नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क पहुंच सकता है। हमें औपचारिक संस्थानों से आगे भी सोचना होगा। अगर आपको याद हो तो माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने ओलंपियन से चर्चा की थी कि इतने उच्च कौशल और उपलब्धियों के बाद भी वे डिग्री प्रमाण पत्र के अभाव में अन्य प्रोफेशनल्स फील्ड में आगे नहीं बढ़ सकते। ऐसे में क्या हम ये सोच सकते हैं कि किसी खिलाड़ी के स्किल्स को कैसे क्रेडिट्स प्रदान किए जाएं? इसी तरह क्या हम ड्राइवर की लर्निंग और स्किल्स को क्रेडिट्स दे सकते हैं? यह सब निश्चित ही आने वाले समय के लिए बड़ा लाभकारी होगा और जब उनकी शिक्षा और कौशल को एक फॉर्मल सिस्टम द्वारा मान्यता दी जाए और उनके पेशेवर जीवन में उनके लिए और भी खुले अवसर हों, इंटर्नशिप्स, प्रोजेक्ट वर्क, ऑन द जॉब ट्रेनिंग आदि को यहाँ मान्यता दी जाएगी। हमें स्कूल परिसर में एक बच्चे को प्राप्त होने वाली शिक्षा को भी क्रेडिट देने के लिए अपने दायरे का विस्तार करना चाहिए, वह चाहे गार्डनिंग की ही शिक्षा क्यों न हो। साथियों, क्या हम अपने एंटायर लर्निंग इकोसिस्टम को रीइमेजिन कर सकते हैं और यह सुनिश्चित कर सकते हैं कि हम ज्ञान के सभी कृत्रिम सीमाओं को तोड़ दें और एजुकेशन और लर्निंग के सभी रूपों को एक नई पहचान दें। आज़ादी के 75 साल पूरे होने के बाद, जैसा कि माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कहा, हमें बड़ा सोचने और बड़ा सपना देखने की ज़रूरत है। नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क ने हमें शिक्षा की चारदीवारियों को तोड़ने और एक नॉलेज इकोसिस्टम के निर्माण का अवसर दिया है, जो हमारे देश भारत को ज्ञान की सदी में नेतृत्व करने के लिए एक मजबूत आधार भी प्रदान करता है। और इस फ्रेमवर्क के माध्यम से हम उस युग को साकार कर सकते हैं जिनका आह्वान किसी समय गुरुदेव रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर ने किया था। वो कहते थे, चित्त जेथा भाई शून्य, उच्च जेथा सिर, ज्ञान जेथा मुक्त, जेथा गृहेर प्राचीर, आपन प्रांगण तले दिवस सर्वरी, বসুধারে রাখে নাই খণ্ড খণ্ড ছিদ্র করি, নিজ হস্তে নির্দয় আঘাত করি পিত্ত, ভারতের সেই স্বর্গে করো জাগরিত। यानी कविगुरु रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर ने आज़ादी के पहले हमें बताया था, और हम छोटे छोटे फ्रेगमेंट्स में न बटे पूरी धरती और पूरे आसमान को अपना समझे। यह शिक्षा के द्वारा ही संभव है और नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क इस राह पर ले जाने में बड़ी भूमिका निभाएगा। साथियों, हम सभी इसके इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में अपना सहयोग दें और औरों को भी सहयोग के लिए प्रेरित करें। यही इस वर्कशॉप रूपी महायज्ञ का प्रतिफल होगा, और मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि आप लोग यह प्रतिफल जरूर हासिल करेंगे। और आज इस IIT कैंपस में बॉम्बे में जो ये वर्कशॉप हो रहा है, इससे निश्चित रूप से जो आपकी शंकाएं हैं, जो आशंकाएं हैं, उसको आप दूर करेंगे, और हम अपने अपने राज्यों में, अपने अपने संस्थानों में बेहतर रूप से इसको लागू कर सके, इसके लिए पूरे क्लियरिटी के साथ आप जाएंगे, ये हमें पूरा विश्वास है। आप सबको बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
Thank you very much, ma'am. I now request Dr. Vinita Agarwal, Executive Member, NCVET, to begin her presentation on NCrF. May I request Chief Guest and Director Sir to kindly join us in the audience.
So good morning everyone, and welcome to this regional consultation on the draft National Credit Framework, which, as you all know, is presently in the public domain. And we hope that you have all gone through this document. Today I will try and highlight some of the salient features of this document to enable better understanding. So there will be a session on question and answers later in the day. So please hold on to your questions, and we can take the questions after the presentation. So we'll start with the National Education Policy 2020. As you all know that the NEP 2020 has a very transformative approach. Now why I say transformative is because it has some very special features. As we all know that academic education in its own way, in most cases, does not make our youth employable. On the other hand, when we look at vocational education and training, it is viewed or perceived as a poor cousin. It is looked upon as a measure of last resort. If you can't get into academics, go into skilling. That is the mindset that we've had. In fact, way back in 1992, I had the opportunity to work in the Department of Education, which was part of the undivided Ministry of Human Resource Development at that time, and I was handling the vocational education scheme. So that was the first experiment with vocationalization of secondary and higher secondary education. But at that time, it was introduced as a separate stream. So there was an academic stream and there was a vocational stream. So there was a class distinction between the two. And at the end of it, the students really didn't know what to do next. In fact, we used to get letters from students that the department has actually ruined our lives. We don't know what to do after that. We have come a long way since then. A lot of pathways, a lot of bridges have been built, but a lot more needs to be done. So that is why NEP is transformative, because it talks about integrating skills with general education, and therefore making both skilling as well as academic education more meaningful and aspirational. Then another very important thing it talks about is removing any kind of distinction between the two and having multiple entry and exit pathways so that there is mobility from vocational to academic and academic to vocational. Then it also talks about multidisciplinary education and having flexible curricular structures. That is, if a student, for instance, wants to pursue, along with physics, wants to pursue history, the student should be allowed to do that. So they should be able to plan the trajectory of their education. Then NEP also talks about, very importantly, that there should be credits. There should be assignment of credits for any kind of learning. You should be able to accumulate credits, store them in a bank of credits, and also provision for transfer and equivalence of credits. Then, therefore, it is talking about lifelong learning. So there should be an option of lifelong learning open to each and every individual in the country. So to achieve this vision and objective of the NEP 2020 and to operationalize it, the National Credit Framework document has been developed. This has been developed jointly by UGC, AICTE, NCVT, NIOS, NCERT, CBSE, along with the Departments of School Education, Higher Education, and Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. So very importantly, it says it provides a framework for creditization of all learnings, whether it comes from academics or vocational or experiential learning, and also provides a mechanism for integrating these credits. Then it seeks to achieve whatever has been defined in the NEP, what I just highlighted. All those provisions have been accounted for in the NCrF document, like removing distinction between the two, like having multiple entry-exit pathways. All that is addressed in the document. Then I would like to draw your attention to also the fact that it talks about multilingualism. That is, it makes a provision for imparting academic, technical, and vocational education in Indian languages, because we know at least 90% of our people are non-English medium. So to benefit all those students, it also talks about that. Then it also promotes extensive use of technology in teaching, learning, and skilling. So in the process, this will be more inclusive, particularly for our Divyang students. So this is the basic diagram. We know learning is multidimensional. So this diagram shows the three very important dimensions of learning. There is the academic learning, which you can see on the x-axis. There is learning through skilling, which you can see on the y-axis. And then there is experiential learning, what we call proficiency axis. So the credit framework talks about creditization of all these forms of learning, that you can get credits for learning either from academics, skilling, or experience. And these credits can be integrated. The mechanism is also outlined in the document. Then another thing the credit framework document talks about is assignment of national credit levels. Now these levels are assigned on the basis of cumulative years of learning. So if you look at the academic axis, levels 0 to 4 are for the school system, from 4.5 to 8 are for higher education system. So up to class 5 is level 1, up to class 8 is level 2, and after class 8, for every year of learning, the student will get 0.5 level. So that if you move from, say, class 8 to class 9, because class 8 is level 2, if you move to class 9, your level will be 2.5. If you move to class 10, it will be 3, and so on. For higher education, it will start from 4.5, that is UG1 is 4.5, UG2 is 5, UG3 is 5.5, and 6 will be honors, UG4, or if it is a BE program, which is a 4-year program, and so on till level 8, which is actually the PhD. So these are the academic levels, 8 levels. And on the y-axis is skilling. This also has levels from 1 to 8, and these levels have also been completely synchronized with the NCrF. Another important thing that has happened is that particularly after class 3, it has been agreed that the total notional learning hours in a year shall be 1200 hours per year across the school education system, higher education, vocational, and even experiential learning for the purpose of assignment of credits. And in these 1200 hours, there will be 40 credits, which means every child will get 20 credits per semester. So this will translate into 30 hours per credit. Now the NCrF document does not give a breakup in terms of theory, practical, and experiential learning, but the basic principle remains the same, that this will be 30 hours per credit. The breakup can be decided by the regulators or the autonomous institutions. Then if a child wants to get more credits, so there is a possibility of that also. Simultaneously, he or she can pursue some additional programs on courses. Suppose he can undertake some online courses, or during the summer vacations, they want to take up some internship or apprenticeship project, they can do so and earn extra credits, that is beyond 40 credits. So what kind of learning we are talking about creditizing? So earlier there was a distinction between there is curricular activity, there is co-curricular, there is extracurricular. Now with the NCrF, all these distinctions have been removed. Everything is curricular. So the learning can be classroom learning, it could be tutorials, it could be lab work, skilling, project work, industry attachment, online learning, blended learning, internship, apprenticeship, on-the-job training, experiential learning, even examination days, class tests, quizzes, sports and games, performing arts like music, yoga, handicraft, bagless days, and even social work and community work will be recognized and given credits for subject to assessment. That is an important part, that it will be subject to assessment that you can earn the credits. Then, as I said, also experiential learning. So experiential learning is also recognized. So far, suppose if I give an example that there is a mechanic who opens a garage, he starts repairing, say, two-wheelers. And over the years, he's able to now start repairing, say, motor cars. And after another few years, his proficiency level increases and he's able to even repair the electric vehicles, the new vehicles that are coming in. So the proficiency level is improving, but so far there was no recognition for this, but the NCrF document gives recognition to this kind of improvement in proficiency and provides for giving credits for the same. So in this, an indicative list has been given in the NCrF document that you can be trained, you can be proficient, you can be expert, and you can become a master. Now, how do you define these proficiency levels? It could be by the number of years that you have worked, or it could be by the level of knowledge. That can be defined, these parameters can be defined by the regulator or the institutions themselves. These are only indicative to help you assess and provide for this kind of criteria. But the principle that remains is that you have to give some kind of weightage. Now, what will you give weightage? That is for you to decide. But the basic principle is that maximum credits that you can earn through experiential learning can be double of the base credits that you started with when you went for experience. So it cannot go beyond doubling the credits. So that is the basic principle which will remain. Rest can be decided by the regulators and the institutions themselves. Then not only this, the credit framework also enables creditization of other forms of learning, like informal learning, non-formal learning, or learning through NGOs. Sometimes we have seen that, say, in construction sites, some NGOs set up some schools, some teaching, learning happens over there. So all that, there is a provision for recognizing subject to assessment. Then not only that, any kind of upskilling, reskilling, any skilling in employability skills, future skills also gets recognized. Now, how does that happen? For instance, if an industry is even training their own, they are doing their internal training for their staff. They don't want to run through the whole course or qualification that we have for training. They have a specific requirement. They want to have a special module for their staff. So there is a provision for that kind of upskilling also. They can develop a module which we call National Occupational Standard, which actually lays down the standards of performance that have to be achieved. They can undergo training in that, have an assessment, and get credits for that. And suppose there are higher level executives, they are CEOs, who cannot afford to come in for, say, a 5-day training program. So maybe there is a 1-day training program, say from 7.5 hours to about 30 hours. So that is also possible through a micro-credential. So they can undergo training in a micro-credential, have an assessment, and have credits for the same. It also provides scope for creditizing national and international achievers. So you can give credits that the institution and regulators can decide that they can give credits for national and international achievers in any field, whether it is sports or music or art or any kind of activity. Then it also talks about educational acceleration for gifted learners. Many times we have heard that some children are like maths wizards. So they know from very beginning, they know like they are able to perform very well. So do they really need to go through this formal structure of learning where they have to put in 1200 hours of formal education every year? So there is a provision in the NCrF whereby instead of looking at learning hours for such children, you can actually look at learning outcomes. So you can assess their outcomes and based on which credits can be given. Then there is recognition of prior learning. So there are a lot of children who drop out of school or college. They go in for some kind of work experience. So they can be brought back to the mainstream by aligning their practical experience with the relevant level of the framework, and we can bring them back into the system. But for all these kind of recognition or creditization, it is very important that the assessment that happens is credible. It is strict, it is objective, so that the NCrF does not get diluted. And we are able to maintain the credibility of the NCrF. So in a nutshell, if I talk about the credit part of it, that every learning hour and all types of learning are going to be creditized subject to assessment. That is an important part, subject to assessment. There will be no differentiation in the credits assigned. That means it's not that if somebody is doing science or somebody is doing humanities, there's going to be a difference in the credits he or she is going to earn. It will be the same. But of course, the regulator or the autonomous institution can define the ratio of academic, skilling, experiential or apprenticeship, on-the-job training, which is required for any kind of program, for any kind of study that a child has to undergo. So that ratio can be defined by the regulator or the institution. However, for any kind of learning to be creditized, there are certain conditions that need to be fulfilled. One, that beforehand you have to first prescribe what are going to be the learning outcomes of that course or program, and what is going to be the NCrF level for that learning. What is going to be the, what is it that you are looking at in that particular course? For example, if there is an achiever, there's an Olympic player who's got, say, a silver medal or a bronze medal. So the institution can decide that, okay, we will recognize his experience and the fact that he is an international achiever. So they can recognize that and give, say, 20 credits. This is just some indicative figure that, okay, we can give him 20 credits at level 5, which will cover the sports sector skilling part. So now if this person is able to acquire 20 credits more through academic learning, then you can give him a diploma. So all those possibilities are there. The institutions and regulators can themselves decide that. So one, you define the learning outcomes, you define the NCrF level, and then you carry out an assessment at the end of it to see whether those desired outcomes have been achieved. So the important part for creditization, as I had said, is assessment at the end of it. So assessment is essential, mandatory for earning credits. And secondly, it talks about assessment bands. Now, what are assessment bands? Assessment bands are stages at which a student or learner needs to be formally assessed if he wants to progress further. If I give an example, suppose a child has passed class 10th, and by virtue of doing a number of skilling courses or experiential learning and an assessment of that, he thinks he has adequate credits and now he can go to a UG program. So can he go? The answer is no, because he has not crossed 12th level. So in the academic band, he has to cross the 12th level. But what his credits will enable him or her is that those credits will enable him or her to undertake assessment of class 12 without undergoing that entire formal learning of 1200 hours per year for 2 years. So they will enable him to undertake the evaluation or assessment for class 12 and then enter the UG program. Then accumulation of credits the student can do, but again that will be within the same assessment band. That is, if the child has accumulated credits, say in class 9 and 10, which fall in one band because your assessment happens at class 10. So if in that band a child has accumulated credit, those credits can be utilized for admission to class 11, but not for admission to a UG program. So it can be accumulated within the same assessment band. Then the learning modes, it is irrespective of the mode of learning. The learning can happen online, in blended form, or in physical form for assignment of credit, of course subject to the guidelines of the regulator or the institutions. So NCVT has developed blended learning guidelines for the vocational education training and skilling. So what we have done is that the learning is divided into 7 parts, 7 components. There are theory and lectures, there are soft skills, demonstrations, practical work, tutorials, assessment, and then on-the-job training or internship or apprenticeship. So each of these components can have a ratio of online and offline learning. How much can be through online mode, how much can be offline mode. For instance, the theory and maybe some IT component, maybe 80% can be done online. But the practical part, 90% may have to be done hands-on. So all that call can be taken by the regulator or the institution concerned, and this ratio can be defined by them. So National Credit Framework is one single meta framework. If you look at this table, this shows 2 important things. One, if you see these bold red lines, these are the assessment bands I was talking about. That you have to 9th and 10th are in one assessment band. To move on to 11th, you have to cross the 10th exam. Similarly, you have to cross the 12th exam to go into a UG program. And you have to complete your UG program assessment before you can go to a master's program. Now, what this framework shows, that why it is a meta framework, it places skilling, vocational education, academic, and experiential learning, everything on the same platform. So if I take the example of, say, class 10, so this 1200 hours of learning for class 10 can come through the academic route, like we say for regular schooling, or through the NIOS, or it can come through the vocational stream, like you have done maybe 8th class and you have done 2 years of ITI, or with 8th class you have done 2 years of apprenticeship training, or you have done some short-term courses after class 8 at NCrF level 3. So ultimately all this will lead to, you can come through any route, but it will lead you to credit level 3, and it will mean you will get 40 credits. And credit points will be 120. Now what is 120 and how do we get this 120? This is 40 credits in a year. A year's learning, as I had said, of 1200 hours will give you 40 credits. And the weightage is the NCrF level. So if you are at level 3, 40 into 3 is 120. So 120 credit points a child will earn. And the equivalence can be through CBSE, through National Open School, State Open School, or school boards. So that can be decided, and equivalence can be given whichever route you may come from. So it is one credit framework which allows for assignment of credits, accumulation of credits, and storage in an academic bank of credit. An academic bank of credit, an account like a passbook, very much like a passbook, an account will be opened when the child starts his or her journey of learning. And all the credits from whichever dimension, whichever field, any credits that a child earns goes into this academic bank of credit from where they can be retrieved and redeemed. So this is an enabling framework. It just lays down the basic principles of creditization and how it will be operationalized. The detailing, the implementation guidelines, operationalization guidelines have to come from the regulators themselves or from the institutions, from the universities, whether it is IITs, IIMs, any institution. So it just empowers these institutions to have a flexible approach, to have their own combination of subjects, to prepare their own curricular structures. So all that is enabled by this enabling framework. So this is one part on how do you earn credits, how do you accumulate these credits, how do you store these credits. The second very important part is how do you transfer these credits, say from one course of learning or from one institution to the another. So that will happen when credits earned in one institution are recognized by the other institution. So there are two parts to it. That one, the requisite number of credits can make you eligible for maybe entry into a program in a particular institution. But there is a difference between eligibility and admission. So the institution concerned can have its own criteria for admission. There may be limited number of seats. They may lay down an admission criteria like an entrance test, or maybe some merit listing has to be done. So the credit framework will enable you to earn credits and become eligible for a program, but the admission criteria set up by an institution has to be respected, and it will be through that admission criteria. Now, how does the redemption of credit take place? So redemption of credits, again, that will be laid down by the regulator themselves, the institutions themselves, but broadly there can be two ways in which it can be redeemed. One, you accumulate your credits, and at the end of it, you can be awarded a certificate or a diploma, a degree, depending on how many credits you have accumulated. Or you can use your credits for admission into a program or a qualification, maybe a higher level program, or even for lateral entry, say, in the second year. So you can redeem your credits in that way also, subject to the guidelines of the regulator. So this is an example that credit transfer is a mechanism to facilitate transfer of learner between disciplines and institutions. Transfer of credit will lead to establishing the entry criteria, establishing equivalence between the institutions and the courses, and providing multiple entry and exit options. So the case is, for example, if you see on the right side, if there is Institute 1, which is offering, say, 2 subjects of 10 credits, and a child moves from Institute 1 to Institute 2, which is also offering the same course with the same subjects, then there is no problem. कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, वो मूव कर सकता है फ्रॉम वन इंस्टीट्यूट टू इंस्टीट्यूट 2. बट हो सकता है कि इंस्टीट्यूट 2 में इफ ही गोज टू इंस्टीट्यूट 3, वहाँ पे आउट ऑफ द 2 subjects, 1 subject is common for that course, but the second subject is different. Then the child will get credits for the subject he has studied. For the next subject, he will have to study. Then there can be a third possibility that there is some mapping done and some components are common whereas others are different. So जो common components हैं उसके लिए credits मिलेंगे, बाकी आपको पढ़ना पड़ेगा to be able to switch over to that particular institution or course. Then another aspect of the credit framework will be establishing equivalence between general and vocational streams. That is very important. Only then that what we are talking about, that kind of recognition will come. So in this, if you look at the example, that suppose somebody has done first year UG, either through a normal UG program or through engineering. So we are considering that as equivalent. Now, if we consider that as equivalent, it is possible that somebody who started his learning in, say, engineering and realized after the end of first year that I don't like engineering, I don't want to do it, I want to do humanities, I want to switch over to, say, history or economics, then that will be possible because they are considered equivalent. Similarly, for an ITI pass out student, now this is already happening. ITI में एंट्री क्राइटेरिया क्या है कि आपने 10th पास किया और आपने 2 साल की ITI की. सो पहले सिर्फ एक ITI का सर्टिफिकेट मिलता था, स्किलिंग का सर्टिफिकेट, विच वी कॉल द नेशनल ट्रेड सर्टिफिकेट. But then a tie-up was made with National Open School, wherein they give credits for this 2 years of learning in the ITI, and they have said that you just do 240 hours language course, and along with the skilling certificate, you can get a 12th class certificate. So that is already happening. So that is a very good example of equivalence for any kind of learning. Similarly, काफ़ी बच्चे ऐसे होते हैं who do not have any academic qualification. So how do we empower them? How do we give them any kind of certificate? चाहे वो class 5 का हो या class 8 का हो. So that is also enabled in the credit framework. कि आपने अगर कुछ credit points accumulate किए, suppose you accumulated 200 credit points, either through the skilling route with some skilling and some experiential learning, and then it is possible that he or she can be enabled to get a certificate either through some kind of additional program he will have to undergo. It could be a literacy and numeracy course, a basic literacy and numeracy course, or maybe a language course as defined by. So these are the options that will have to be worked out with the open schools. It could be national open school, it could be state open schools. So these options can be worked out, and we can actually empower our children who do not have any academic qualification as of now. So this is another example of equivalence. Suppose 12th class का आपको certificate चाहिए या equivalence चाहिए. So you can come through the regular academic route or through the open school. Yeah, after 10th, as I had explained, you could do 2-year ITI, and you can do a language course prescribed by the open school, or you could do 10th, you may be a 10th pass, और आप enrolled हैं एक 3 साल के diploma program में, तो उसके 2 साल का अगर आपने diploma किया है, तो उसके बाद by virtue of whatever assessment is required, you can get a 12th class certificate, because they will both be at the same level. 12th is level 4. So 10th के बाद आप 2 साल का पढ़ाई और करने के बाद you can get a level 4 certificate, which is class 12. And 10th grade को पास करने के बाद you can also undergo some short-term qualifications, you can accumulate your credits, and again, as prescribed by the open school, either a language course or any other requirement, you can just do that and you can get a 12th class certificate. Similarly, if you look at higher education, this is one example. Suppose you want to get eligible for the second year of UG, so you can come through any of these routes. You can either, of course, have done your first year UG and you come to second year UG, or you could have done 10th and you would have completed your 3-year diploma. And after 3-year diploma, maybe the institution prescribes some entry module which you have to go through, and after that you can enter directly lateral entry into the second year. Similarly, after 12th, you can get, say, 20 credits from doing some UGC or AICT course at level 4.5. Suppose you've done that, then that gets recognized and you can just get 20 credits from any kind of skilling program. Or if after 12th you've done some skilling program and you already have 20 credits at level 4.5, then you can do an academic program of UGC of 20 credits and you can come to second year UG. Similarly, 12th class plus 40 credits from any program of UGC and AICT at level 4.5. In fact, just as an example, I would like to also mention, like defense personnel, they undergo a lot of extensive training over their period in the defense services. So what we are doing at NCVT is, there are 19 of them, 19 directorates. So we are trying to help them get credits for the learning, for the training that they undergo, and the experiential learning they have while they are in the Army or Air Force or Navy. So now their trainings are being aligned to National Skills Qualification Framework, And the idea is that 50% of their credits which relate to skilling will come from whatever training they are undergoing in the defense forces. And then there is a tie-up with IGNOU. The rest of the 50% credits will come from some academic courses as prescribed by IGNOU. And by the time they leave, they will have a UG degree with them. So that is also an example of how equivalence can be established by recognizing their earlier learning. Then the most important part is how do you facilitate multiple entry and exit. Now these options means that a child can enter or exit any level of learning at any time, subject to whatever additional requirements that may be laid down for entry and exit. So the entry and exit could be academic education. He may want to move from academic to vocational or vocational to academic, or from academic and vocational he may want to go to the job market and then come back after some time. So all that multiple entry and exit is possible, and while doing that, the existing norms and guidelines of UGC, AICT, NCVT, NCRT, everything has been kept in mind while working out these guidelines. So some examples of this multiple entry and exit. That suppose, I'm sure this first example you all must be aware of, that if you are enrolled in a 4-year degree program, then if you exit after first year of UG, you can get a certificate. If you exit after 2 years of UG, you can get a diploma. If you exit after 3 years, you get a degree. And if you exit after 4 years, you can get an honors degree. Now, while you are exiting after every year, we don't want the child to enter the job market without adequate capacity or capability. So the regulator and the institution concerned can define an exit module. So it is possible that first year ke baad aapne chhod diya, the institution can decide that you have to go through, say, an employability skills module. Only then you will get your certificate. So this is all to enable the child to have the adequate skills when he or she enters the job market. So that is also something which the institutions can define themselves. Similarly, in a master's program, suppose you're doing an integrated 5-year program, so you can exit after 3 years with a bachelor's degree, and you may want to do your 2 years master's from some other institution. So that is also possible. Another example is that suppose you are enrolled in an MTech program, it is possible. These are just the possibilities that have been highlighted, that if you exit after first year of your MTech program, maybe you can be given an MVOC degree. And if you complete your 2 years, you get your MTech degree. So this possibility can be defined. So in a nutshell, this National Credit Framework is a single meta framework which integrates academic learning, vocational learning, as well as experiential learning, and also provides a mechanism for integrating all these kind of learnings. And it enables assignment, accumulation, storage, transfer, and redemption of credits. It allows for multidisciplinary and holistic education. It enables multiple entry and exit between general and vocational education. It removes any kind of distinction between general and vocational education, and it supports the existing qualification frameworks, that is the National Higher Education Qualification Framework as well as the National Skills Qualification Framework. And this National Credit Framework is not only advantageous to the user because it is actually been prepared from the point of view of the user, from the point of view of the learner. So it is definitely advantageous to the learner, but it is also advantageous for the institutions, for the industry and the job market, and also for the government for achieving its national objective, one of which would be increased enrollment of students. With this, I thank you for your attention. And later on, we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. This is for all of us that we have a dedicated email ID wherein we are seeking comments and suggestions of all the participants and people who are seeing our presentations online. If they have any doubts, any confusions, any suggestions, they can send it to our comments.ncrf@gmail.com. We'll be happy to compile and work more on the document based on your suggestions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Agarwal. I now request Dean Academic Programs, IIT Bombay, Professor Avinash Mahajan, to kindly share his thoughts.
Desktop, no?
So what I will do is I'll give an overview of the credit system that we are having in IIT Bombay for now many decades. I'm Avinash Mahajan. I'm the Dean Academic Programs over here. So the credit system that we have in place at IIT Bombay is actually being followed for many decades, maybe close to 5 decades. What I will do is I'll give an example of typical credit framework that we have for undergraduate programs. So, IIT system is quite dynamic, and at IIT Bombay, all these changes, modifications that happen to the existing system happen through wide-ranging consultations within the IITB community as well as alumni and employers, industry. So very recently, total overhaul of the undergraduate curriculum has taken place. So my overview here is about the present undergraduate curriculum. So as Dr. Agarwal mentioned, you can define a certain range of credits that are required to obtain a degree. So I'll come a little bit later to how the credits are defined at IIT Bombay. But for an undergraduate program, currently we have about 250 credits that a student must accumulate. And this is a combination of specialization in various areas. So of course, an engineering department, let's say aeronautical engineering, will be able to specify as to what core requirement is for a student to get an undergraduate degree in aeronautical engineering, BTech in aeronautical engineering. So overall, the framework is such that the core requirement constitutes about 32% of the credits. In addition, for an engineering degree, one needs to have some basic science, mathematics, and engineering skills. So those comprise about 28% of the credits. And in addition to this, as a part of holistic learning, we have also credits to be earned from this basket called HASMET, humanities, social sciences, management, entrepreneurship, design. So there are subjects in all these various areas, and there is a requirement that it must be at least 8%. So as you see, a large portion remains undefined as far as the institute goes, and that is to be defined by the student through the elective route. So a student is able to decide whether he or she would like to specialize in a particular area, and in this elective part, which is about 32% of the credits, focus on science, technology, engineering, management, these type of courses, or focus on more the design, humanities, sociology, these type of courses, or perhaps have a combination where equal proportion of STEM and HASMET. So this is all up to the student to define. And as the student goes along from first year to second year, they will have a better perception of where their interest lies and where their skill lies and where they want to specialize. What do they want to see in the future? If somebody wants to go for higher education in the same area, then it's probably desirable that they do electives in the STEM subjects and so forth. So this is the overall constitution of the 250 credits, some division between the core, basic science and engineering, HASMET and electives. So credits are gathered by students under various heads. So to start with, some are core courses, some subjects, some courses have labels or tags which are flexible. They can count as an elective, they could count as a HASMET course, they could count as a minor course. So depending on what route the student is taking, they can assign a specific tag to it. And in addition to this minimum required credits for an undergraduate degree, say about 250, 260 or so there is still enough room in terms of the time available. There is enough room to gather more credits. Okay, this amounts to about 35 credits per semester or so, but there is room to acquire more credits, to do more courses, and they can add further qualifications to their degree, such as a minor, which is obtained if you do 30 credits, or honors, which is obtained if you do 24 credits. So there are various examples. I just give some representative ones. So somebody who is, set up for a BTech in mechanical engineering can do BTech mechanical engineering with honors. So they would do 250 credits with a breakup as core, electives, and so forth. But with honors, then they would do some 30 credits of honors, 24 credits of honors courses. If they also want a minor in some other subject, then they can do 24 credits in that subject. So somebody can get a degree, which is BTech mechanical engineering with honors, and a minor in computer science. The system at IITB also allows a combination of minors. So somebody can get a BTech in chemical engineering with a minor in civil engineering and a minor in management. So, and this is something that is to be decided by the student, and of course in consultation with a faculty advisor who is assigned to the student. And as they go along, they garner these credits, and at the end of 4 years, once they have accumulated sufficient number of credits, they can tag them for minor or honors or additional learning sort of tags, and then get a degree with the additional qualifications. Now, this is the sort of broad overall picture. What actually happens in the semester, what are the courses, what are the credits? I just give a brief overview of that. Semester at most IITs is about 14 weeks. So in each semester, student will register for various courses, and there is an evaluation for each course, there is an assessment. Now this is a continuous assessment that we follow at IIT Bombay. So evaluation is a combination of things, and it's largely up to the instructor of the course who can decide in what way to evaluate students in a course. And of course, it depends on the type of course. If it's a theory course, if it's a lab course, if it's a studio course, then the modes of evaluation are going to be different. So it will be a combination of some quiz, some homework, some project, some viva, and so forth. And typical number of credits that the student does each semester is about 35 to 40. Students have a provision to do extra number of credits depending on their academic standing. Based on how many they can handle, they can do almost 14 credits more than what is actually the prescribed one. And as it was said, this works actually like an academic bank of credits. So these credits keep getting added to their transcript, and they can redeem these, only part of these, towards a minor or honors or some such thing. Okay? And how are the credits decided at IIT Bombay? So we have the following approach. A theory course typically requires 3 or 4 contact hours every week. It could be a combination of a lecture and a tutorial. So at IIT Bombay, our perception is that if there are 3 contact hours for a theory course, then the student needs to put in about an equal amount of time in order to absorb the material that is taught and make progress. So for a 3 contact hours per week of theory course, the credits assigned are 6. Similarly, lab course is really all hands-on work. So a student goes to a lab, does some experiment, then there is some outcome, writes the lab journal, submits that, and that's the end of it. So typically, this works for 3 hours a week or sometimes 6 hours a week, but it's all hands-on, and so it may not require additional lecture or tutorial, and so it may not require additional preparation before or after the lab session, right? So it's only the amount of time actually spent in the lab which gives you credit. So here, the number of contact hours is actually equal to the number of credits. Some courses might require a combination of the two. You might require some theory inputs before a lab experiment can be done. So such a thing is also possible. You have a combination of 1 lecture hour and let's say 3 lab hours, and the credits are also then calculated accordingly. The lecture hour counts for 2 credits and the lab hours count for 3 credits, so you can have a 5 credit course. We also have something like a studio course, which is somewhere halfway between a theory and experiment. So there the multiplication factor is 1.5. So if 4 hours of a studio course, it amounts to 6 credits. So, this credit system has evolved over the decades from our experience when people offer different kinds of courses. So I should say that at IITs, all the approach is always bottom-up. So the courses are proposed from experts at a department level, from faculty members in consultation with students, and then they go through a various steps of an approval chain to be finally approved by the Senate, Academic Senate of IIT Bombay. So just to add to this, I should say that a degree at IIT also allows you to do courses outside of the IIT system. So again, this is a dynamic thing. At present, we allow, for example, 12 credits through other course modes such as NPTEL, SWAYAM, or also now ABC. So if students have accumulated some credits in the academic bank of credits, then through internal approval process, certain fraction can be used towards their degree at IIT. Okay, and depending on if academically weakly performing students, they could use a higher number of credits to work towards their degree. And also, often students will go on some exchange semester with other universities with whom IIT has some engagement and a memorandum of understanding. So that also counts towards graduation requirements. There is also a provision for credit-based internship. So civil engineering department, for example, can say, okay, these number of credits can be earned by doing some internship in an industry during summer. So of course, this is evaluated, some grade is assigned to this, and this can also count towards graduation requirements. And of course, in general, to provide flexibility, IIT Bombay also allows a provision for a 2-semester complete break for the student, where the student decides, I want to look at something else, I want to pursue some sports activity, or I want to now in between, I've finished 2 years here, I want to pursue some startup. So the system allows for that, allows the student to take a complete break and then come back from where they started and continue their journey towards getting a full degree. Okay? So at graduation time, students can modify these tags or labels that are there for courses, figure out which one counts towards their graduation requirement of the basic degree, honors, minor, and so forth, and then graduate and get a degree. Okay, so as I said, the process for new courses and programs at IIT Bombay and most IITs is similar. So there are department level committees which actually deliberate over new upcoming areas and whether a new course is required to be offered to students. Then there are institute level committees which take it through further in the approval chain, and finally the academic senate approves the running of a course. So similarly, even new degree programs. Okay, so we recently started a couple of new degree programs. These also run through a similar process. One defines a new degree program, so how many credits in which area, what are the courses and so forth, and then finally it's approved and then it can be offered to incoming students. And large-scale revisions, of course, happen through special committees, high-level committees which are formulated for this purpose. And we always take inputs, and we have wide-ranging consultations with all stakeholders, of course, faculty, students, alumni, industry. This ensures that the change is actually successful. So in alignment with the National Education Policy of 2020, within the IITB system, we do have different entry options, exit options for students. So I give some examples here. This is not totally exhaustive. So at the undergraduate level also, of course, everybody knows the entry is through the JEE Main, and following that, the JEE Advanced. At the BS Math program here in the Maths department, the entry is also possible through the Indian National Maths Olympiad. So likewise, entry to our MTech program is possibly through GATE, or after IIT BTech without GATE, or student joins for BTech degree through the JEE Advanced, and then at some point in the third year decides wants to upgrade to a higher degree and can move to a dual degree, where at the end of 5 years they can get a BTech plus an MTech. They can also decide to get the MTech part from a totally different field. So somebody can decide to do a BTech mechanical engineering and then a MTech in computer science and engineering. So such kind of interdisciplinarity is already built into the system, and students can get a dual degree in these interdisciplinary areas. Likewise, at the higher level also, at the PhD degree also, of course, we have entry through the GATE exam, which is national level exam, and of course, other UGC, CSIR, PMRF fellowships. Students can, of course, enter at the MTech and then make a decision of moving up to the MTech plus a PhD dual degree program. Likewise, MSc to MSc plus a dual degree, PhD dual degree. And of course, there is routine availability of minors and electives in all sorts of programs to provide for this interdisciplinarity. There is also an early exit possible. So many students, after joining the undergraduate program, realize that their interests actually lie elsewhere, rather than more formal, rigorous undergraduate education. So there is a provision for them that after 3 years, they can exit. This is recently approved by the Senate, and we already have various applications for this. They can exit with a BSc engineering degree, either with a specialization or without a specialization, depending on the requirements that are set up. And roughly 60% of the credits for the BTech have to be completed to go out with this 3-year BSc engineering exit degree. At the other extreme, we also have students who are able to finish the requirements very fast. So in such a situation, IIT Bombay allows also an accelerated exit. So a 4-year program, they can finish in 3.5 years, and maybe they have other interests. They want to do a startup, they want to even go for higher education, or they want to join some family business, or something different. So whatever, they can complete their degree program ahead of the 4 years. So in 3.5 years, they can get their degree and leave. Likewise, at the MTech level, it's a 2-year program. However, once again, after a year, students can change their mind, and due to various compulsions or due to various change of interest, they would like to leave. So there is a provision to get a postgraduate diploma from IIT, that's the PGD IIT, with some requirements which are lesser than that for the MTech. So after getting those many credits, they can exit out of the MTech program with a PGD IIT degree. Likewise, for a PhD, you see the engagement is over a much longer period, 5 years to 6 years. But here again, it's possible that after 2 or 3 years, the student gets the impression that their interest lies elsewhere, and they would not like to pursue the full 5-year, 6-year PhD program, would not like to stay in academics or some such thing. Then there is a provision to get out with a Master of Science by Research. So these are all recognized degrees. So this is available as an exit to PhD. So we have this idea of interdisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity, idea of multiple entry, multiple exit, idea of student devising their own curriculum within some constraints, of course, and defining their field of specialization, having multiple fields of specialization. All these provisions actually already are existing in our program at IITB. So with this, I'll thank you for your attention. Of course, questions are available. We are available to answer questions later in the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mahajan. We will now have a short 10-minute tea break. Tea is being served in the foyer on the first floor. Kindly join us. And we will have a Q&A panel discussion after the tea break, so kindly come back in 10 minutes.
Hello, Mahesh. Hello. Hello, check. Hello. 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 Hello, check. वो बंद किया हेलो 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 चेक हेलो 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 चेक हेलो 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 चेक
May I request the guests to kindly come back and take your seats, please?
हाँ हाँ
Welcome back, all of you. We will now begin the panel discussion that includes the question and answer session also. I invite on dais our esteemed panelists, starting with Dr. Avichal Kapoor, Joint Secretary UGC, Dr. Vinita Agarwal, Executive Member NCVET, Lieutenant Colonel Gunjan Chaudhary, Director NCVET, Dr. Saroj Sharma, Chairperson NIOS, Mr. Nilambuj Sharan, Senior Economic Advisor MSDE, Professor Rajiv Kumar, Member Secretary AICTE, Professor Vinay Swaroop Mehrotra, Joint Director PSS CIVE Bhopal, and Ms. Neeti Shankar Sharma, Deputy Secretary CBSE. The panel discussion will be moderated by Professor Siddharth Ghosh, Dean Educational Outreach from IIT Bombay.
Welcome back. I think we have taken a good break of 10 or so minutes. We'll start our proceedings. So for the next 1 hour or so, we'll have this panel discussion. The main idea over here is that as a host for this workshop, IITB has the responsibility to give you the opportunity to clarify your doubts, ask any questions that you have to the expert panel that we have over here. Any kind of question at all, because this is an awareness workshop, and we are very fortunate to have a panel of experts like this we have over here. So we'll have this, and considering our Honorable Minister time schedule, we'll try to stick to finishing it by 1 o'clock. Would that be okay? So before we start with our questionnaire, since most of the panelists today didn't have the opportunity to talk to you directly, we'll start with a small round of introduction, and also I'll request each of them to give their personal view on how they view this workshop and what they expect from the audience in this one, the kind of questions that they expect, and anything else they would like to share with us. So I'll share the mic with Dr. Kapoor first. I request everyone to take 2 or so minutes.
माननीय मंत्री जी नमस्कार, डायरेक्टर IIT मुंबई, सीनियर एकेडमिशियंस एंड माय डियर कलीग, आप सभी को नमस्कार। जैसा कि आप सभी जानते हैं कि न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी जो 2020 में लॉन्च हुई और जिसके 5 स्तंभ हैं, एक्सेस, इक्विटी, क्वालिटी, अकाउंटेबिलिटी एंड मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंटली इंडियन कंटेक्स्ट में अफोर्डेबिलिटी। पांचों स्तंभ को देखते हुए न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी ने बहुत सारी रिकमेंडेशंस की और इन रिकमेंडेशंस को मद्देनज़र रखते हुए विश्वविद्यालय अनुदान आयोग ने बहुत सारे इनिशिएटिव्स माननीय सरकार के मार्गदर्शन में और समर्थन दोनों में लॉन्च किए, जैसे कि एकेडमिक बैंक ऑफ क्रेडिट, मल्टीपल एंट्री मल्टी एग्जिट, अभी रिसेंटली जो लॉन्च हुआ परसुइंग 2 डिग्रीज टुगेदर, इट कैन बी 1 डिग्री इन कन्वेंशनल, 1 डिग्री इन ऑनलाइन एंड डिस्टेंस मोड, internationalization, collaborative initiative between various higher education institutions, which should amount to 2-3 important aspects: credit transfer, joint degrees, joint research program, and now we are going to come out with the optimum utilization of resources. इन सारे फ्रेमवर्क को अगर आप ध्यान से देखें, जो कि हम यूजीसी में इस तरह से रखा गया है कि कंटिन्यूअस मोड में एक ही चीज़ देखनी है जो न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी ने देखी, कि जो हमारा स्टूडेंट है उसको बेस्ट पॉसिबल लर्निंग एनवायरनमेंट हमें प्रोवाइड करना है और उसे एक ऐसा सिटीजन बनाना है जो ग्लोबली कॉम्पिटेंट हो बट लोकली रेलिवेंट भी हो। इन चीज़ों को मद्देनज़र रखते हुए बहुत सारे इनिशिएटिव लिए गए हैं। उन इनिशिएटिव्स में सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट है, क्योंकि हर चीज़ जो कल्टीवेट होती है उसका पहला आसार है एक क्रेडिट, और नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क वर्कशॉप जो सीरीज़ IITs के माध्यम से और सपोर्ट से लॉन्च की गई है, मुझे लगता है कि ये बहुत सारे रिफॉर्म्स को जनरेट करेगा और एक ऐसा लर्निंग मैकेनिज्म बनाया जाएगा जिसमें ना कि एक रेगुलर एजुकेशन इम्पॉर्टेंट होगी बट साथ में वोकेशनल एजुकेशन भी उतनी ही इम्पॉर्टेंट होगी, साथ में एक्सपोनेंशियल लर्निंग भी उतनी ही इम्पॉर्टेंट होगी और रिकग्निशन टू प्रायर लर्निंग को भी इक्वल इम्पोर्टेंस एंड एम्फेसिस दिया जाएगा। मैं इन बैकग्राउंड के साथ ये कहना चाहूँगा कि विश्वविद्यालय अनुदान आयोग बहुत निरंतर प्रयास कर रहा है कि किस तरीके से NEP के इम्प्लीमेंटेशन को और प्रोडक्टिव इन अ टाइम बाउंड एंड डिजायर्ड मैनर में किया जाए, जहाँ पे आप सभी का समर्थन और सहयोग भी एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करेगा, क्योंकि पॉलिसी बन सकती है पर इम्प्लीमेंटेशन आप ही कर रहे हैं। इसके साथ मैं आज के पैनल डिस्कशन में क्वेश्चन आंसर्स की तरफ देखता हूँ। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका।
Thank you, Dr. Kapoor. I request Lieutenant Colonel Gunjan Chaudhary for again a quick introduction and also to give your perspective with the audience for today's workshop.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Colonel Gunjan Chaudhary. I'm director here in National Council for Vocational Education and Training, the regulatory body for the skilling and vocational education in the country. जैसा आप लोगों ने सारा सुबह से पहला सेशन जो आपने देखा, और हमारा एम ही यही है कि ये अच्छी तरह आपको इनिशियल स्टेज में समझ में आए, और इसी स्थिति में ये जो हमने जो सेशन रखा है कि आपकी जो भी जो अंदर से आपकी जो डाउट्स निकल के आ रही हैं या जो भी क्लैरिफिकेशंस आपके लिए हैं इनिशियल स्टेज में, हम इसको आगे भी फॉलो करेंगे, वो हम आपका इसको थोड़ा सा पर्दा उस पर से हटा सके और आप यहाँ से जब जाएं तो एक बिल्कुल क्लियर माइंड के साथ जाएं, और जो हमने आपको बताया था कि एक कमेंट दें जिससे ये डॉक्यूमेंट बहुत ही होलसम तरीके से निकले और ये लंबे समय तक ये वैलिड रहे। तो इसी साथ में कहना चाहूंगा कि आप लोग जो भी क्वेश्चंस हो गए पूछ सकते हैं, जितना हम इस टाइम के फ्रेम में क्वेश्चंस रखना चाहेंगे रख पाएंगे, अदरवाइज यू कैन ऑलवेज सेंड योर क्वेश्चंस through the email ID which has been said, and it would be our endeavor to give response to each and every questions in the every different form, or shall be included in the policy document as such. Thank you.
Emphasize the fact that you can ask any question and clarify your doubts, and again don't mind if the question may not be pertinent to any others. Yeah, sorry for the mic. So I would request Dr. Vinita Agarwal now. You have already heard her for a very useful talk to all of us. I have learned personally a lot from her talk, and I'm sure you'll have many questions for her as well. So again, Dr. Agarwal, maybe a quick 2-minute introduction. Yeah.
So I'm Vinita Agarwal, Executive Member of National Council for Vocational Education and Training. I won't take much time since I've already spoken on this. Just two things I would like to draw your attention to. One, that like we all expect कि आप लोग इस document को पढ़ें because there is no substitute for reading. So what we can highlight here is only the salient feature. पर उसके जो nuances हैं वो आपको तभी समझ आएगी जब आप document पढ़ें और उसको समझें. और ये एक evolving चीज़ है, ये एक framework है. So it's possible कि हो सकता है हर dimension को हम document में ना cover कर पाएं. तो जब आप लोग पढ़ेंगे और अपने valuable comments हमें भेजेंगे तो आप हमारा उन तरफ ध्यान आकर्षित कर सकते हैं जो पहलू हम शायद छोड़ आए थे. So that way the document can become complete if you also become a part of this. That is one. And just the second point I want to mention is कि ये enabling document है जो बहुत सारी flexibility दे सकता है, मगर वो कितनी flexibility आप उसको कैसे utilize करते हैं ये आपके ऊपर निर्भर करता है. So it is very important कि हम पुराना mindset छोड़ के एक नए माइंडसेट से उसको देखना शुरू करें, तभी हम जो हमारी रिजिड वॉल्स हैं उनको तोड़ पाएंगे और एक्चुअली इसका प्रॉपर इम्प्लीमेंटेशन हो पाएगा जैसा कि हमने एनविसाज किया. थैंक
यू डॉक्टर अग्रवाल. विल बी वेटिंग टू हियर मोर फ्रॉम यू. वी मूव ऑन टू मिस्टर नीलम्बुत शरण. कुड यू प्लीज.
Honorable Minister of State, Director IIT Bombay, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I must admit that I am very new to this sector, so I am here more as a learner and in the process maybe earn some credits. But I must admit, from whatever little I know and from what I saw in the presentation today, that it's a historical and monumental step towards mainstreaming of vocational education by way of integrating the two domains, that is academic and vocational, and provide flexibility and mobility to the learners across the two. And also it opens up a large numerous options for learners from all the domains, all the streams for their future progression by way through intermingling of school education, higher education and vocational education. So I look forward to rich discussion today.
Thank you. I request now Dr. Saroj Sharma.
आदरणीय मंत्री महोदया और सभी सुधीजनों को मेरा प्रणाम. थोड़ी देर पहले बात हो रही थी साविद्या या विमुक्तये की. एजुकेशन लिबरेट्स and how it liberates, that has been covered a lot in National Education Policy 2020. जो पॉलिसी की बात होती है, राधा कृष्णन कमीशन जब 1949 में बोलते हैं, जब कोठारी कमीशन जो जिसे एजुकेशन कमीशन कहा जाता है और उससे आगे जो परंपरा चलती है न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी. अब जब हम सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल की बात करते हैं जो यूनेस्को के एम्बिट में है, और यूजीसी रिप्रेजेंटेटिव जिस 4 पिलर्स की बात कर रहे थे, 5 पिलर्स की, एक्सेस, इक्विटी, क्वालिटी, वैल्यू एजुकेशन और भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा, ये भी इसमें है. तो जब हम एक साविज्ञता या विमुक्तये की बात करते हैं और लिबरेशन की बात करते हैं, यहाँ पे नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क बहुत बड़ी भूमिका रखता है. आई एम रिप्रेजेंटिंग हियर नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग. इट इज़ वर्ल्ड्स लार्जेस्ट ओपन स्कूलिंग सिस्टम. और एक हम आईआईटी के प्रांगण में बैठे हैं, साइंस की बहुत बात होती है, मगर मुझे लगता है हम जब काम कर रहे थे इस पे नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क पे, इट्स नॉट अ रॉकेट साइंस. बहुत सारी चीज़ें आईआईटी में भी चल रही हैं, एनआईओएस में भी चल रहा है. देयर इज़ नो बाउंड्री बिटवीन कन्वेंशनल कोर्सेज एंड वोकेशनल कोर्सेज इन एनआईओएस. 1200 क्रेडिट एज इट इज़ इसमें डाला गया है. तो मुझे लगता है जो माइंडसेट की बात अभी मैडम विनीता कह रही थी, वी हैव टू चेंज आवर माइंडसेट. बस इसको हम थोड़ा सा बदलें, चीज़ें उसी रूप में हैं और इसमें कुछ सुझावों की ज़रूरत है. कैसे हम इम्प्लीमेंटेशन प्रोसेस में टीथिंग ट्रबल्स होते हैं, वो टीथिंग ट्रबल्स कैसे आएंगे, उसको टाइम के साथ कैसे सॉल्व किया जाएगा. बहुत अच्छा फ्रेमवर्क है ये. और पूरा का पूरा पीएचडी तक की बात की गई है इसमें. कैसे क्लास 1 से लेके पीएचडी लेवल तक हम कैसे क्रेडिट में बांधे एजुकेशन सिस्टम को. और जो सबसे बड़ी बात जो मैं यहाँ पे आपका अटेंशन ड्रॉ करना चाहूँगी, इंस्ट्रक्शनल, वी ऑल नो क्लास में अ टीचर हैज़ सम आवर्स फॉर इंस्ट्रक्शंस, मगर कुछ नॉन इंस्ट्रक्शनल टाइम भी होते हैं. खेल कूद है, एग्ज़ाम टाइम की बात है, वो भी तो लर्निंग पीरियड है. सो दैट टाइम इज़ ऑल्सो कम्स इन द लर्निंग आउटकम फेज. लर्निंग ही तो है. सो ये सारी चीज़ें एनआईओएस में होम स्टडी को भी हमने क्रेडिट दिया है. जैसे इग्नो हायर एजुकेशन में, स्कूल एजुकेशन में एनआईओएस है. मुझे लगता है इंस्ट्रक्शनल, नॉन इंस्ट्रक्शनल एंड सेल्फ लर्निंग एंड वोकेशनल एंड कन्वेंशनल, ये सब एक अम्ब्रेला के अंदर आ गए हैं और एक बहुत अच्छा बुके है। स्टूडेंट अपनी मर्जी से, अपनी फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी से, इजी एंट्री इजी एग्जिट, और ये पूरा का पूरा NEP 2020 को इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए बहुत अच्छा इंस्ट्रूमेंट है। आई विश यू ऑल वार्म ग्रीटिंग्स और लेट अस हैव एन एन्चेंटिंग सेशन, क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन।
Thank you, Dr. Sharma, and also thank you for the introduction to NIOS. We move on to Professor Rajiv Kumar from AICT.
नमस्कार आदरणीय मंत्री महोदय, जैसा कि अग्रवाल मैडम और शर्मा मैडम ने बताया कि ये एक माइंडसेट, और दूसरा मैडम ने एक बात कही कि रॉकेट साइंस नहीं है, बिल्कुल सही है। इस टाइप के प्रयास NIOS और बहुत सी संस्थाओं में पहले भी क्रेडिट को काउंट करने के चल रहे हैं, लेकिन कोई फॉर्मल डॉक्यूमेंट हमारे पास नहीं था। ये एक फॉर्मल डॉक्यूमेंट है। इस फॉर्मल डॉक्यूमेंट में अभी तो हम कुछ संस्थानों में इस कार्य को कर पा रहे थे, लेकिन इसके आने के बाद हम हर संस्थान में इस क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क को अगर लागू करते हैं तो इस टाइप के प्रावधान हम अपने संस्थानों में भी कर सकते हैं। लेकिन मैं एक बात और कहना चाहूँगा, बाकी चीज़ें हम क्वेश्चन आवर में लेंगे, कि इसको इम्प्लीमेंट करने का रियल एक सेंस है कि हम अपने यहाँ डायनेमिक डिसीजन मेकिंग रखें। अगर हमने इन सब चीज़ों में देर की, पर्टिकुलरली गवर्नमेंट इंस्टीट्यूशंस के लिए मैं कहूँगा कि हमें अपने यहाँ डायनेमिक एकेडमिक बॉडीज़ बनानी होंगी, जो एक डायनेमिक डिसीजंस जैसी भी, क्योंकि डिफरेंट टाइप की प्रॉब्लम्स, हर स्टूडेंट्स की डिफरेंट टाइप की प्रॉब्लम होगी, कोई यूनिफॉर्म प्रॉब्लम या केस नहीं होंगे, किस टाइप के क्रेडिट होंगे। तो बहुत डायनेमिक स्ट्रक्चर एकेडमिक बॉडीज़ में, डिसीजन मेकिंग बॉडीज़ में हमें लेना होगा। और अगर हम डायनेमिक स्ट्रक्चर अपने यहाँ अपने संस्थानों में क्रिएट कर पाए तो इस क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क को इम्प्लीमेंट करने में कोई परेशानी, कोई दिक्कत हम लोगों को दिखाई नहीं देती। रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज़ और जितनी भी बॉडीज़ गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया या अन्य सरकारों की हैं, राज्य सरकारों की हैं, वो सहयोग आपको प्रदान करेंगी। मैं इस बात के बाद मैं मेरा इनिशियल अपना वक्तव्य में समाप्त करता हूँ। धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू।
हेलो हेलो।
थैंक यू प्रोफेसर कुमार। प्रोफेसर विनय स्वरूप।
नमस्कार आदरणीय मंत्री महोदय, डायरेक्टर IIT Bombay, and all the dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. It's a great opportunity to be here. Let me first tell you about my institute, from where I come from. It's Pandit Sundarlal Sharma Central Institute of Vocational Education. It's a constituent unit of NCRT. NCRT, you all know, National Council of Educational Research and Training. And this institute is located at Bhopal. It's a apex research and development organization in the field of vocational education, with a mandate for school sector. So this national credit framework is going to really be a milestone in terms of meeting the challenges of integrating vocational education with general education. We have tried various models earlier, as Madam Vinita had initially mentioned that in her presentation, that the earlier scheme was having a lot of challenges in terms of skilling students and then getting them employable. Employability skills has been a major challenge for all of us, because industry mostly wants that the pass out should be employable. And this is another challenge we can address through this national credit framework, because we have been overwhelmingly focusing mostly on the vocational skills and not the 21st century skills or the employability skills. So we have introduced a separate curriculum on employability skills in school sector. But somehow, because of the lack of number of hours in the timetable, we were not able to implement or integrate general education with vocational education. So this credit framework would really help a child to choose from the various subjects, from a basket of subjects, and then make his or her own curriculum, the career progression, the pathways that he or she can tread through, not only in school education, but also in the higher education. So there will be an integration also between the school education and higher education, as well as between the ITI, polytechnics, National Institute of Open Schooling, or state open schools. This is what we were looking forward, and this National Credit Framework will really bring in all these things together. So there are challenges, there would be challenges, but we all have to meet these challenges coming out from silos that we have been working. So coordination, networking, and all will be the major thing. We need to open more departments in the schools itself. Because as of now, the teacher is the major center for learning. So we have to have various schools within the schools where the heads of the departments would be coordinating for this credit framework. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I look forward to many questions and critical analysis of this credit framework. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mehrotra. And then we have Ms. Niti Shankar Sharma from CBSE.
Hello, namaskar, respected ma'am, Director IIT Bombay, and all the dignitaries present here. It's a privilege to be a part of this August gathering, and just to let that progression grow through, because the esteemed panelists have already put in their thoughts, and we have been brainstorming this in a way since morning because of the presentations and other things that came by, and ma'am had worked out on. What I want to say in a very simple thing before we really switch over to the question answers, what is required here. CBSE had started the skilling or the skill education or the vocational education way back in 1979. And there has been, a seamless progression in the way first it was offered as a package, then from vocational education we turned it into a skill education as a nomenclature. And today you won't believe we have about, I think most of the people here from the school fraternity would 100% know that we have about 19 courses that are running in 9th and 10th, and about 39 to 40 courses running. Why I'm putting this here, that we have these courses running, is because Mr. Malhotra would agree, and I think Vinita ma'am had been a part of this whole process in some way earlier also, that we have these frameworks in a way that the employability skills are there, the guidelines or the things which are in some way worked out here in this particular framework have been put in. The only thing that is required now is putting them into credits. And what I can understand, once we'll have the national curriculum framework rolled in and notified, and this gets notified, so it will be very, very simple. It will be very, very easy to have that sort of thing worked out with CBSE. And just to add to it, after the NEP, we had also started with, earlier we were doing it 9 to 12, then we have started from 6 to 8 and have rolled down certain modules for the students from 6 to 8. और बिलीव करिए इतना अच्छा उसका रिस्पांस मिल रहा है which is unprecedented. So एक बार जब ये इतना excellent framework which we called as an enabling framework would come into fore, it will be a really game changer. And एक और चीज़ इतने दिनों से what we are listening and going through all the regional conferences and awareness workshops we are having, आप लोग सब ये रियलाइज करेंगे, लाइक द IITs, Dean sir has already said कि हम ये करते आ रहे हैं. This is already there in the system. Now it's just streamlined in a way. Similarly, when we'll talk about CBSE, हम बहुत सारी चीज़ें इसी perspective में especially with skilling करते आ रहे हैं. जब इसको हम credit framework में डालेंगे, we are doing curricular, we are doing co-curricular, we are doing the extracurricular. Now all those things would come into certain gambit of the creditization. So all the best, and whenever and anything, any questions will roll in, we'll be there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Lastly, I just introduce myself. So I'm Siddhartha Ghosh. I'm the current Dean Educational Outreach in IIT Bombay. And our goal is to provide education to people outside IIT Bombay who are not our regular students. For example, working professionals, college teachers from others, and even students from other universities. And what we are trying to achieve is also to provide credits through our outreach courses, which hasn't been there so far, but that's what we are aiming at. We would like to provide Senate-approved IITB credits to our outreach learners, like working professionals, and students, and college teachers, and administrators in government organizations, and so on. So this is our goal, and we are in the path also towards disseminating and taking out the expertise that we have within this campus to a much broader and wider world. Okay. So with this, we'll start with our panel discussion. So we'll go to you, we'll come to you with our mics, and the request is that you keep your question short, considering the time that we have. And I would also request you to keep it to the point, and if possible, please identify who you are seeking the answer from. Okay, that would really, really help. So I would take help from someone to, yeah, do you have the mics outside? Okay, yeah. Okay, so please raise your hand, and don't forget to identify yourself, please, and we'll come to you one by one. Okay.
Myself, Dr. Viral Jadhav. I'm from IITE Gandhinagar. We have gone through the draft National Credit Framework, and there is no specific details about the integrated course. We are running BSc B.Ed integrated program and masters like MSc, M.Ed, MA, M.Ed. So there is no guideline for the integrated program. So we need guideline for this. Further, for the integrated course, how multiple entry and exit is possible? These are the two questions from my side. Thank you.
And do you want it from anybody specific? Dr. Agarwal, maybe?
That I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think we will decide which panel member will answer.
Mine in education, should I want answer from me? Mine in education stream, I am M.Ed professor of M.Ed. आपने जिस ITEP की बात की है, that curriculum is ready, and any course, irrespective of any discipline, that will come under the ambit of 1200 credits, right? आपको 1200 credit चाहे वो integrated हो, 1 year हो, 2 year हो, या फिर 4 year का ITEP, you are talking about ITEP, I guess, Integrated Teacher Education Program. Either it is BSc B.Ed, BA B.Ed, every course will come under the ambit of 1200 credit, और वो आपको करना होगा. And if any doubt, अभी curriculum framework आ रहा है, that is why you all are asked to give your suggestions. अगर आपको लगता है syllabus is ready of ITEP, कभी भी उसको clear किया जा सकता है, लेकिन तब तक आपको अपने suggestions लगते हैं कि इसमें ITEP में हम दें, तो you are free to give us suggestions. But NCT representative was also there in the curriculum formation team, और common consensus से ये हुआ है, whether it is teacher education program or any other program.
Excuse me, ma'am.
अगर आपको याद होगा कि मैंने अपनी प्रेजेंटेशन में कहा था कि अगर आप कोई इंटीग्रेटेड प्रोग्राम कर रहे हैं, जैसे आपने कहा BSc B.Ed कर रहे हैं, तो अगर कोई बच्चा BSc करने के बाद एग्जिट करके B.Ed कहीं और से करना चाहे, वो कर सकते हैं. या अगर किसी इस तरह का ऑप्शन इनेबलमेंट है NCrF डॉक्यूमेंट में. अब ये आपको जो ये ट्रांसफ़र मैकेनिज्म है, ये इंस्टीट्यूशंस को अपने आप एक दूसरे के साथ वर्कआउट करना पड़ेगा. सो दैट एनेबलमेंट इज़ देयर, सो दैट यू हैव टू फॉलो अप, एंड दैट शुड बी पॉसिबल. बिल्कुल पॉसिबल है.
मैडम
permission also. Just to add what the two panelists said, that UGC specification of degrees document already has a provision how to build the integrated program. Integrated program where you have an exit option. So if you have an exit option, then the duration of both the programs remains as an additional summation of that. And if you have a single degree at the end of the integrated degree course, then you can reduce the duration by 25%. So when you implement your integrated program based on this and integrate it with the curricular framework in terms of how the credits will move from first year of the study to the total as per the integrated program, I think it can be fit into that category.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, my question is that suppose a student has enrolled in college A and then he completed 1 year. After that, he exited the college and he wanted to pursue the remaining in college B. But college A and college B, they are not equal in terms of quality. So in that sense, how we can consider the transfer of credits?
एक मिनट मैं बोल देता हूँ उसमें. आपको स्लाइड दिखाया गया था, वो एग्जाम्पल वाली स्लाइड, वो लगाइए जरा. एग्जाम्पल वाली स्लाइड्स में आपने जो देखा होगा कि अगर आपके एवरीथिंग इज बेस्ड ऑन लर्निंग आउटकम्स. अगर आप इसमें देखिएगा कि सब्जेक्ट ए अगर कर रहा है तो उसके लर्निंग आउटकम्स क्या हैं, और सब्जेक्ट बी अगर दूसरे कॉलेज में जा रहे हैं, क्या आपकी लर्निंग आउटकम्स अगर एक ही तरह है तो पहले तो आप एलिजिबल बन जाते हैं। तो ये जो मैडम ने भी बताया और हमारे प्रेजेंटेशन में भी बात हुई कि ये हम इसको इनेबल कर रहे हैं। अब बाकी आप जो कैसे ट्रांसफर कर रहे हैं, देयर आर मेनी थिंग्स व्हिच कम्स इनटू प्ले, दैट इज वन ऑफ द इज लर्निंग आउटकम। सेकंड थिंग इज आपकी रेटिंग, NIRF जो रेटिंग होती है, इट कैन नॉट हैपन दैट रेटिंग 100 कैन टेक एडमिशन एट रेटिंग 1। सो जैसे आप अगर ग्रेजुएट, आप अगर 12th पास करते हैं साइंस से, आप एलिजिबल हो जाते हैं IIT में जाने के लिए इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज में, लेकिन आपको पहले JEE एग्जाम पास करना पड़ता है। JEE एग्जाम पास करके भी आप IIT नहीं जा सकते हैं, आपको JEE एडवांस देना पड़ता है। तो दोज प्रोविजंस हैव टू कम इनटू प्ले एंड दोज प्रोविजंस के जो गाइडलाइंस हैं वो रेगुलेटर्स बनाएंगे अपने उसके व्यवस्था के उसमें इस्तेमाल करने के लिए। दूसरा जो ऑटोनॉमस ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं लाइक IITs वो अपना बनाएंगे। सो इट कैन नॉट बी दैट एलिजिबल आप हो रहे हैं, एनेबलमेंट हो रहा है तो आपको राइट मिल जाता है कि आप एडमिशन ले सकते हैं। होप यू गॉट द आंसर। थैंक यू।
Good afternoon, sir. My question is, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Dr. A.K. Dureja. I am from Hon'ble National Institute, Mumbai. My question is regarding the definition of credit. Maybe for school education, if you can relate number of lecture hours with the credit, it's fine. But if you look at the higher education, the level of courses may be different. So if you look at the European credit transfer system, they say that if you have 25 to 30 hours of total workload required, then it can be translated to 1 credit. Here what we are saying is if you are having 14 hours of lecture, then it is equal for all the courses. So is there any mechanism by which we can introduce toughness of the course into pictures?
I think you spoke about European credit transfer. There are 60 credits defined in a year. So 60 credits, actually, if you look at, there is a lot of emphasis on the self-learning component. Finally, as said, at 1200 hours every year amounting to 40 credits. So it comes to 30 hours per credit in that notional sense. Madam also used this notional word also. Finally, it will go through the statutory authorities of the university, which will look at the course-wise, the difficulty level, complexity, and how to merge these 30 hours of learning in order to make it 1 credit kind of thing. So it will be left to the universities, and I think with experience and with implementation, a convergence will arrive among many institutions as we go forward, depending on the type of courses and the course in that particular program.
I just would like to add one thing. ये जो कॉन्टैक्ट प्रोग्राम जो आप बता रहे हैं, हम उसकी बात ही नहीं कर रहे, हम तो सिर्फ लर्निंग आवर की बात कर रहे हैं। लर्निंग आवर हमको दिखाया था, आप तरीका वो दिखाइए वो स्लाइड्स। लर्निंग आवर्स क्या क्या चीज़ें लर्निंग आवर्स में आते हैं आप देखिए। इट इज़ नॉट जस्ट रिस्ट्रिक्टेड टू कॉन्टैक्ट प्रोग्राम और प्रैक्टिकल और थ्योरी, एनीथिंग कैन बी लर्निंग आवर्स। हियर वी आर लर्निंग. Actually, I am also learning how to address so much of gathering, and Honorable Minister sitting here, this is the first time I met speaking in front of her. This is a learning for me. So this is also can be, अगर क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क लागू हो जाता है तो शायद मैं अपने चेयरपर्सन को बोलूँगा कि इसके लिए मुझे क्रेडिट दीजिए.
Yeah, definitely, everything should be considered what a student is investing in time. Thank you.
Basically, like he said, learning outcomes जो है ना, उसको आप कैसे how you are going to assess the learning outcomes. And that will define, you can assign credits based on that. So that is something you can evolve as part of your own institution.
Madam, I think going forward, a regulator will have a model kind of guidelines here, and then each of the universities will look at those model guidelines to look at those 30 hours to assign 1 credit.
This is the same thing what I called, what I was mentioning in my address, that you have a body at your institute that will find out, suppose he is coming out with 10 credits. So whether they are equivalent to 5 credits or 4 credits in your institution, that will be decided by the committee. So these modalities have to be worked out by the institute itself.
Namaskar. My name is Bama Venkatramani. I am from Symbiosis International Deemed University. I have 2 questions. The first question is regarding the learning itself, the assessment of learning. In a number of places in this document, we have said, we've read this subject to assessment, right? So does it mean that every institute who's getting an application from the applicant or learner is going to do this assessment? Because this assessment is then likely to be different with different institutes. So that was my first question. And the second question is, there is some reference to credit points which says it's credit, number of credits into level. I'd also like to understand the significance of credit points. Thank you.
So the first part you talked about assessment. So that assessment, the institute which is awarding the credits, that institute will award the credits only after undertaking an assessment. क्योंकि जब आप experiential learning से कोई आता है, so there can be all kinds of experiences. But उसको आप कैसे recognize करोगे? अगर आप assess नहीं करोगे उसका proficiency level, you cannot accord credits. So that has to be done by the institution which is awarding the credits. और जो credit points है, ultimately जो आप accumulate कर रहे हो, वो credit points accumulate कर रहे हो. So at the end of every study जो आप करोगे, जैसे अगर आपको, जैसे मैंने example दिया था 40 credits and if it is a level 3 course, that means आपके account में जो credits जाएंगे वो 120 जाएंगे, 40 into 3. So accumulation of credit will depend on credit points. That is what is the significance of the use of the term credit points.
मैं ऐड मैम, जैसा आपने बताया कि आपका फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन क्या था आपका? असेसमेंट. हाँ, असेसमेंट, व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय असेसमेंट? असेसमेंट में यू आर चेकिंग द लर्निंग आउटकम्स. एक्चुअली until unless you don't carry out assessment, you won't know कि आपने जब एक बच्चे को पढ़ाना शुरू किया, एक ध्येय था उसमें कि उसमें क्या आउटकम निकलेगा, क्या वो कर पाएगा, वो आप चेक करते हैं उसमें. तो वो बहुत जरूरी है. और दूसरी जो मैम ने बताया कि जो पॉइंट है क्रेडिट पॉइंट्स, हम एक तरफ क्रेडिट भी बोल रहे हैं और दूसरा क्रेडिट पॉइंट्स भी बोल रहे हैं. क्रेडिट पॉइंट्स कम्स इनटू प्ले बिकॉज एवरी लेवल हैज गॉट सम वैलिडिटी, सम वेटेज है उसका. अगर आप कोई लेवल 3 में मैम ने बताया जो 120 क्रेडिट मिलेंगे और पीएचडी में लेवल 8 पे मिलेंगे, अगर आप बोलिएगा कि 40 क्रेडिट लेके आया, लेकिन 40 क्रेडिट एंड 40 क्रेडिट, बोथ द क्रेडिट एट लेवल 3 एंड लेवल 8 आर नॉट इक्वल, बिकॉज इफ यू मल्टीप्लाई विद द वेटेज, वहाँ लेवल 8 में बन जाएगा 320 और यहाँ बनेगा 120, दोनों में अंतर है. इसीलिए दैट पॉइंट्स कम्स इनटू प्ले.
All right. Just one more clarification, ma'am. So you spoke about assessment. So the institute awarding the credits will do the assessment. Now, isn't this also likely to be very different from between different institutes? No. Now it's happening at the institute level, ma'am.
Right. Yeah. So it is the institute. There is some institute which is awarding some credits, no?
Right, ma'am.
So the assessment is done by that institute.
Yeah, but now we are talking about one institute's credits getting transferred to another institute.
So you will have your own criteria for accepting those credits, no? You will have an admission criteria. आप हो सकता है कहें कि now the child has become eligible.
Okay.
अगर आपको credits मिल गए उतने based on an assessment, then you have to allow that child to appear for your entrance exam. The child is eligible. But as an institute, you can have your own entrance criteria.
Right.
Okay, you have to clear, and that is how you assess whether the credits, you recognize those credits or you don't.
Understood, ma'am. Thank you.
There is one MOU between ITIs and NIOS. So जैसा मैडम ने भी कहा था कि ITI के अगर 4 सब्जेक्ट्स हैं, student comes to us, takes only one language subject of NIOS और हम उसके सारे क्रेडिट को मान्यता देते हैं and he or she gets certificate of 10th or 12th from NIOS. Same is there with CBSE. CBSE के 5 सब्जेक्ट होते हैं और अगर NIOS से वो चाहता है कि 2 सब्जेक्ट कर ले, कुछ कम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम्स होते हैं जैसे पायलट के लिए मैथ्स कंपलसरी है. व्हाट दे डू इफ दे आर हैविंग ह्यूमैनिटीज सब्जेक्ट्स इन CBSE, दे कम टू NIOS, वो हमारे 2 सब्जेक्ट लेते हैं, उनके 7 सब्जेक्ट्स हो सकते हैं, 1 ले सकता है, 2 ले सकता है, और जो उनको सर्टिफिकेट मिलता है दैट इज़ क्यूमुलेटिव सर्टिफिकेट. हम इनके क्रेडिट को एक्सेप्ट करते हैं और जो सर्टिफिकेट मिलता है दैट इज़ ऑफ 7 सब्जेक्ट्स एंड ही और शी इज़ एलिजिबल फॉर डिफरेंट कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम्स. सो दिस काइंड ऑफ क्रेडिट एक्यूमुलेशन इज़ ऑलरेडी इन प्रैक्टिस इन स्कूल एजुकेशन. ITI से हमारा बहुत सक्सेसफुल है.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Praveen Dange. I am from Symbiosis, the same organization, Symbiosis International University. One question is an extension of that and another quick question. The credit point accumulation, so the degrees the credits would be redeemed to gain degrees, right? So credit point accumulation, is there a band specific limitation? Because sometimes it may so happen that in one particular band I have large number of credits accumulated, multiplied by the credit points may go up, right? Whereas I may not progress to a higher levels. So the credit points, do they have significance in the longer run, or that's one question. And the second question is, today we have a concept of notion of a program is linked to a degree. So when one is asked a question, what are the kind of programs you have, you say BA, BCom, BBA and all those. So NEP is talking about a program having multiple degree options, right? And most of the places, regulatory places, you would find a drop-down coming. So programs are being offered, you would get a drop-down where you need to choose degrees being offered. So the notion of a program is necessarily linked to a degree. Is it going to change in the short run? Because NEP is talking about multiple degree options, a program leading to multiple degrees, maybe one program leading to either BA or BCom, BA or BSc, based on the kind of courses that is a person is pursuing. Right. Those are two questions. Thank you.
So I think I had mentioned it in the presentation that accumulation of credits can happen in a specific assessment band. कि अगर आपने say 9th और 10th में credits accumulate किए, तो उसको आप use नहीं कर सकते to get into a UG program. उसको आप use कर सकते हो only to get admission in your class 11. So you cannot jump an assessment band. So accumulation will happen only for that purpose. Then your second question was about your degree, the different degrees. So your degrees, actually that will depend. See, it does not say that you have to come up with different options, but you can come with different options. You can have like a liberal arts program. You can continue with a BA normal program. You can have a BCom program. So they may or may not change, that will depend upon you. But what you are allowing through this credit framework is that you're allowing a student to exit after say 1 year or second year, and then what is the option? And when the child comes back, will you give credits for what the child has done in that interim period? Experience के लिए job में गया या कोई skilling course किया, तो उस तरह के options आपके पास available रहेंगे. डिग्री का नाम आप कोई डिफरेंट देना चाहें या एडिशनल डिग्री आप देना चाहें, that is entirely up to you as an institution or as a regulator. So that, but the possibilities are there. So वो आप कर सकते हैं.
जो मैडम ने बताया उसके आगे बढ़ाते हुए मैं बताना चाहूँगा, जैसे आपने एग्जाम्पल भी देखा, अगर आपने ग्रेजुएट डिग्री BA BSc में प्रोग्राम में एनरोल कराया किसी बच्चे को, लर्नर को, और वो किसी कारणवश, कोई भी कारण हो सकता है, वो फर्स्ट ईयर के बाद एग्जिट करता है, तो आज के डेट में क्या है, कोई बोल नहीं सकता फर्स्ट ईयर मैंने BA किया है, कुछ है, कुछ नहीं है. लेकिन अगर फर्स्ट ईयर एग्जिट करता है तो हम उसको UG सर्टिफिकेट देंगे. UG सर्टिफिकेट देंगे, एटलीस्ट ही और शी, द लर्नर हैज सम क्रेडेंशियल, सम क्रेडिबिलिटी इन द वर्क फील्ड और कहीं पे भी. सेकेंड ईयर में अगर एग्जिट करता है, लेकिन एग्जिट देखिए फर्स्ट ईयर में जो क्रेडिट लेता है ही और शी बिकम्स एलिजिबल फॉर सेकेंड ईयर. लेकिन अगर उसको डिग्री लेके सर्टिफिकेट लेके निकले हैं, देयर हैज टू बी सम एग्जिट क्लॉज, some assessment, and that person, the learner, gets a certificate. Second year that person exits तो उसको डिप्लोमा मिलेगा. थर्ड ईयर एग्जिट करेगा तो उसको डिग्री मिलेगा. फोर्थ ईयर एग्जिट करेगा तो ऑनर्स मिलेगा. तो एवरी ईयर that learner is not deprived of his or her learning. That the credit framework ensures this. Hope this has answered your question.
आपका डिग्री सेम रहेगा, but you are giving the child option to exit at various points, और उन पॉइंट्स को रिकग्नाइज करने के लिए आप ये सब उनको दे रहे हो, ये अवार्डिंग कर रहे हो कि आइदर अ सर्टिफिकेट और अ डिप्लोमा. बट
I think bundling of courses and bundling of number of courses into multiple programs will be the sole domain of the higher education institutions as per the regulator's guidelines.
Okay, I just want some clarification from Agarwal ma'am. You was talking about some learning hours and learning outcomes. Dr. Mahajan just says that that the students who is offered a 4-year program, so he can complete it in a 3.5 years. So I just want some more elaborations on this one. So how you was saying that some people or some students are eligible for they are having some so they can earn these credits earlier. So how we can recognize them, first thing. My second questions will be, I'm just hoping some more explanations on the common component mapping. Like if a person from humanities wants to enter into the engineering, then what will be the common components which will be going to be mapped? And I am more than again doubtful about the multiple exist. Like in some the core colleges where the student strength is more concerned for where which is going to be related with the workload of that particular teacher.
So I'll answer your last question first. So you said कि कोई engineering करके what did you say? You said कि you can, if you want to transfer to somebody wants to go to humanities.
Yeah.
Or from humanities go to say a science course. So engineering course. So आप इक्विवेलेंस ऐसे नहीं दे सकते ना कि आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि एक अगर आप इंजीनियरिंग से जा रहे हो पॉसिबली आप ह्यूमैनिटीज़ में जा सकते हो उसके बाद, बट अगर ह्यूमैनिटीज़ करके आ रहे हो एंड यू हैव नॉट डन फर्स्ट ईयर ऑफ इंजीनियरिंग, तो क्या आप सेकेंड ईयर ऑफ इंजीनियरिंग में जा सकते हो? सो देयर इज़ अ लॉट ऑफ गैप. सो हर कोर्स के लिए आपको डिफाइन करना पड़ेगा. मे बी देयर इज़ अ मॉड्यूल, ये आप एज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन, पर उसके लिए आपको थोड़ा सा ओपन होना पड़ेगा. वी कैन नॉट अडॉप्ट द सेम काइंड ऑफ थिंकिंग दैट वी हैव बीन अडॉप्टिंग सो फार. वी हैव टू बी लिटिल मोर ओपन टू इट एंड थिंक कि अगर ये मॉड्यूल एक है, एंट्री मॉड्यूल है, अगर आप इस मॉड्यूल, आपको मैपिंग करनी पड़ेगी ना अपने कोर्सेज की. द इंस्टीट्यूशन विल हैव टू मैप द कोर्सेज, और जहाँ पे आपको सिमिलैरिटी मिलेगी उसके क्रेडिट्स को आप यूज़ कर सकते हो, उसको रिपीट नहीं करना पड़ेगा. लेकिन जहाँ पे गैप है जो आपने नहीं पढ़ा फर्स्ट ईयर में और आप सोचते हैं वो ज़रूरी है टू गो इनटू द सेकंड ईयर, तो उसको आपको पढ़ना पड़ेगा टू गेट इनटू द सेकंड ईयर. सो ये सब मैपिंग इंस्टीट्यूशन लेवल पे होगी.
इसमें एक ये भी था, you have to identify the learning gaps at when he is entering to the suppose it's a 4-year course. अब उसके learning gaps, suppose maths नहीं किया हुआ उसने या और कोई subjects नहीं किए हुए जो उस discipline के लिए relevant है, then you can provide some extra courses to that student. उसको आप bridge courses दे दीजिएगा. Unless until he completes this bridge courses, he cannot continue with the regular courses. तो हो सकता है 4 साल का प्रोग्राम वो 5 साल में खत्म करे, 5.5 साल में खत्म करे. तो ड्यूरेशन ऑफ द प्रोग्राम कैन इंक्रीज इन दैट केस, बट यू विल नॉट डायल्यूट द लर्निंग आउटकम्स व्हेन ए स्टूडेंट इज प्रीरिक्विजिट फॉर द कोर्स व्हेन ही इज एंटरिंग टू सम ईयर. So this you have to define at the institute level. So this is the role of the institution. So role of the institution and the faculty is going to be very, very important in identifying such gaps.
मैं आपको छोटा सा एग्जांपल देना चाहूँगी. करीब 6 महीने पहले गवर्नमेंट ऑफ गुयाना कॉन्टेक्टेड अस और मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एजुकेशन से ही हमारे पास आया था. दे वांटेड कि उनके जो अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर के लेबरर्स हैं उनके एजुकेशन को NIOS देखे. एंड वॉट वी डिड, वी सैट टुगेदर. हमने देखा कि जो कॉमन मिल रहे हैं कोर्स कंटेंट, हमने उनको क्रेडिट में लाया. दैट कोर्स केम अंडर द एम्बिट ऑफ क्रेडिट. और उसके बाद व्हाट वी डिड, बिकॉज उनके यहाँ 9th के भी लोग थे जो हमारे यहाँ से 12th करना चाहते थे, 10th के भी थे, हमने ब्रिज कोर्स का कॉन्सेप्ट लाया. अभी MOU साइन होना है जिसमें हमने उनको 6 months का और 3 months का ब्रिज कोर्स का दिया है. और जो कॉमन हमारे सब्जेक्ट मिलते थे, जो इंडिया में NIOS का जो करिकुलम था और गुयाना का जो करिकुलम था, हमने उसको कॉमन को प्रॉपर क्रेडिट देके उनको एक्यूमुलेट कर लिया है. सो ऐसी चीज़ें होंगी अब.
So, good afternoon, ma'am.
Madam,
good afternoon,
just 1 second, madam. And I apologize for this. We forgot to introduce Dr. Kalsi, who is also joining online as part of this panel. So if you have specific questions, that also can be asked online. And I hope that we can also get connected online so that the answers can be gotten from the Zoom meeting. Yeah. Please.
Shall I?
Dr. Kalsi is the chairperson, National Council for Vocational Education and Training, and he also happened to be the chairperson of the NCrF committee. Thank you.
So, shall I, sir? Yeah. So, my question is to, in fact, all panelists, but specifically to Kapoor, sir. Sir, I am actually aligning my questions to 3 very important dimensions of this whole ecosystem of, credits. The first concern is for faculty. As you said rightly, that we need to change the mindset from the old school of thought to new school of thought, from 68 to 86 and now 2020 NEP. So I just want to understand from you, are there some rolling programs over the year for sensitizing faculty other than these workshops, which are in the form of refreshers or short-term trainings? Because I personally feel as a faculty that each dimension needs lot of reflections, preparations, and expertise from the side of faculty also when it comes to interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary aspects of exit and entry of the students. And second aspect, and my concern for students is like this model is gelling well with inculcating in students the values, interests, personalities, and skill sets, which is very well complementing to all these aspects. So my concern is like industry always claims most of the time that whatever has been taught is different from whatever is being applied. So that's why they're coming up with industry work integrated programs in many of their manufacturing units. So I would like to know from all of you, like, first thing is like, what is the initiatives, what more initiatives we should do as universities per se for the faculty growth and development and to apply effectively this new grading system. And second is like how students should be dealt with in terms of entry exit and how their employability should go more towards the specificity, of course with the multitasking and multi-skilling, but yes, industry at the end looks for specificity. They don't want someone with king of all trades and master of none. So, and the third aspect is like industry. So sir, how to integrate industry more into this particular framework other than what we are doing till today? Thank you.
You asked 3-4 questions into one question. As far as, I'll start with the Industry Connect, you may have seen that UGC has recently notified Professor of Practice, where we are permitting, and I was happy to see Ascent, which comes every Wednesday in Times of India, number of advertisements for the people who want to become Professor of Practice. So that is a real way of connecting industry professional with the university ecosystem, and those guidelines are already in the public domain for implementation by the universities. In addition, under the chairmanship of one director IIT, we have already formed a committee on university industry linkage, and number of suggestions have come on that in terms of a meaningful implementation between an industry and an academic institution, so that will be notified soon. As far as faculty training programs are concerned, already there are human resource development HRDCs across the country, 60 plus, but in a mission mode, faculty capacity building programs on understanding and taking forward the various initiatives under NEP, and more importantly, since government and the UGC is promoting online education also, so how to actually make effective use of technology while delivering education. So all these are happening in parallel. However, industry part, I think if you are very keen, explore and implement the Professor of Practice, and so that he is here in your campus and you can also go to the industry concern there.
May I? हाँ नमस्कार, मैं प्रोफेसर संजीव कुमार दुबे, सेंट्रल यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ गुजरात। हम लोग बहुत वर्षों से CBCS को फॉलो कर रहे हैं, और CBCS को फॉलो करते समय भी हम लोगों ने इस बात को अनुभव किया है कि जो स्टूडेंट्स को कैफेटेरिया अप्रोच हम देते हैं, बहुत सारे सब्जेक्ट्स उनको कोर्सेज ऑडिट करने के लिए, तो देखा ये जाता है कि उनके टाइम टेबल, उनके एग्ज़ाम्स में इतनी सारी मुश्किलें आती हैं कि बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है उनको लेटर एंड स्पिरिट में फॉलो करना। ऐसे में जब हम बहुत से इंस्टीट्यूशंस के साथ क्रेडिट को ट्रांसफ़र करने की व्यवस्था करने जा रहे हैं, तो मेरा प्रश्न ये है कि जो हर प्रोग्राम के कुछ कोर्सेज ही हम इस तरह उसको ओपन कर पाएंगे जिसको विद इन द इंस्टीट्यूशन एंड बियॉन्ड बाहर आउटसाइड द इंस्टीट्यूशन के स्टूडेंट्स उसको ऑप्ट कर सकते हैं। ऐसे में क्या दो इंस्टीट्यूशंस के बीच किसी तरह की MOU करने की आवश्यकता होगी, या फिर वो ओपनली कोई भी किसी भी इंस्टीट्यूशन में, फॉर एग्जांपल सेंट्रल यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ गुजरात का एक स्टूडेंट IIT मुंबई का एक कोर्स वो ऑप्ट कर लेता है और जो भी IIT की रिक्वायरमेंट है वो उसके अनुसार वो फुलफिल करता होगा। तीसरी चीज़ ये है कि इसका एग्ज़ाम टाइम टेबल और क्लासेस को कैसे हम लोग कोऑर्डिनेट करेंगे, और उससे एक बड़ी बात जो नेशनल क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क के साथ आनी चाहिए वो ये कि जो ग्रेडिंग पैटर्न हमारा है वो अभी भी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में, कॉलेजेस में अलग अलग है, और अभी भी 55% रिक्वायरमेंट एंड ग्रेड का जो चक्कर है वो बना हुआ है। ऐसे में इसके लिए भी कुछ विचार किया जाना चाहिए। आप सबने मुझे सुना, धन्यवाद।
So definitely ये एक नया सिस्टम, it is bringing in a new system, so it is revolutionary. सो ऑब्वियसली दिक्कतें आएंगी। तभी ये कहा गया कि इम्प्लीमेंटेशन प्लान, ऑपरेशनलाइजेशन प्लान आपको बनाना पड़ेगा। सो we have to, like, we will have to get out of our comfort zone and we will have to start thinking ahead and develop implementation guidelines. तो जब वो बनेंगी तो आप देखेंगे कि ये सब जो मुश्किलें आपने बताई ये तो आएंगी, मगर इनको कैसे आप इनसे पार करेंगे, that you will have to work on those kind of things. You will have to have understanding with various institutions. You will have to build that structure, and some things will happen automatically. Certain eligibility conditions, ये सब automatically पूरे ecosystem में होगा। मगर एक institution से दूसरे institution में, like somebody is coming from one institution wants to get into IIT, they may become eligible for the programs. So some things will happen automatically across the platform. But for some things you will have to have an understanding with the institution concerned.
I think just to add what Madam has said, कि going forward you will, आपको बहुत से models of collaboration मिलेंगे सर। फाइनली अगर आप ये क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क को देखें और ABC को इसके साथ कनेक्ट करें तो एकेडमिक बैंक ऑफ क्रेडिट्स में सारे ये क्रेडिट अलॉन्ग विद क्रेडिट पॉइंट्स पार्क हो जाएंगे। इसके साथ आपको ABC के रेगुलेशन जो UGC के हैं वो देखने होंगे, जिसमें ये कहा गया है कि 50% क्रेडिट ट्रांसफ़र करने की परमिसिबिलिटी है। उसके बाद डिग्री वहीं से मिलेगी जो यूनिवर्सिटी 50% क्रेडिट असेस करेगी और देगी, तो दैट मीन्स रिमेनिंग 50% विल कम फ्रॉम वेरिएड सोर्सेज। अब जो डिग्री दे रही है यूनिवर्सिटी उसको देखना है कि वो सोर्सेज कौन से होंगे, उन सोर्सेज की इक्विवेलेंस कंपेयर टू देयर ओन यूनिवर्सिटी कैसी होगी। तो आई थिंक शुरू में तो ये मुझे लगता है 2 यूनिवर्सिटीज़ की MOU काइंड ऑफ एनी पार्टनरशिप्स के साथ चालू होगा। More and more models, when they will become public, more importantly they will become more creditable, then other universities will start adopting those universities and the models therein.
Yeah, just 1 second please. So we are almost at the end of this session. What we can do, we can take 2 very short questions if you don't mind. Please keep your questions short. I know many hands are coming up and I can see the enthusiasm. But then you can continue in the lunch. The panelists will be here. We'll go to sir over there first, and then it's a difficult choice to make. We'll come over here then. Okay. Sorry. Please. Yeah.
नमस्ते सभी को। सर ऐसा कोई इसमें एक पूरे फ्रेमवर्क में कोई ऐसा एक स्पेसिफिक पॉइंट है जिसको हाईलाइट कर सकते हैं कि जिसको ध्यान में रखा है कि ये रूरल स्टूडेंट के लिए है, ऐसा कोई है पॉइंट जिसको आप लोग हाईलाइट कर सकते हैं कि जिसको ध्यान में रखा है कि ये रूरल स्टूडेंट्स के लिए जरूरी है?
हेलो, ये मल्टीपल एंट्री एग्जिट और जो काउंटिंग ऑफ क्रेडिट्स है, जो हमारे ग्रामीण छात्र बीच में किसी चाहे धन की वजह से या किसी और वजह से या भाषा की वजह से बीच में छोड़ना पड़ता है, उनको ये बहुत बड़ा एक एडवांटेज है इस क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क में जो मिल रहा है कि वो कभी भी एंटर कर सकते हैं। जो उन्होंने प्रायर लर्निंग है, उनकी किसी चीज़ में उनका हाथों की उनकी माहिरता है, वो सब लर्निंग उनकी काउंट होगी। और ये मैक्सिमम जो एडवांटेज जो क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क है वो उसी क्लास के बच्चों के लिए, चाहे वो ग्रामीण परिप्रेक्ष्य से आते हों या सोशली इकोनॉमिक डाइवर्स बैकग्राउंड से आते हैं, उनके लिए ये जो क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क है ये बहुत सहायक है।
इसमें
एक इसमें अभी आपको जब प्रेजेंटेशन में मैंने बताया था, इसमें बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं जो ग्रामीण बच्चों के लिए बहुत लाभदायक होंगी। जैसे पहला अभी बताया उन्होंने आपको कि अगर कोई बच्चा काम कर रहा है, मान लो आपने बताया फार्म में काम कर रहा है, तो उसमें प्रावधान है कि एक रिकग्निशन ऑफ प्रायर लर्निंग हो सकता है। आप लर्निंग आउटकम्स उसके मेजर करके उसको आप क्रेडिट्स दे सकते हैं। और मैंने आपको बताया था कि कोई बच्चा अगर किसी के पास कोई एकेडमिक कोई किसी तरह का क्रेडिट नहीं है, वो 5th पास भी नहीं है, 8th पास भी नहीं है, तो अगर वो एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग और कुछ शॉर्ट टर्म स्किलिंग कोर्सेज करके आता है तो ओपन स्कूल के थ्रू हम इस तरह का प्रावधान बना सकते हैं इस फ्रेमवर्क के अंडर में, जहाँ पर वो मे बी एक बेसिक न्यूमरेसी और लिटरेसी कोर्स करके या एक लैंग्वेज कोर्स करके एक 5th या 8th क्लास का सर्टिफिकेट पा सकता है। ये भी है। और एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात जो मैंने शुरू में बताई थी कि मल्टीलिंगुअलिज्म को भी ये प्रमोट करता है। तो अगर बच्चे इंग्लिश नहीं समझते हैं तो एकेडमिक, वोकेशनल और हर तरह की लर्निंग को किस तरह से अब उनकी मातृभाषा में करा जाए, वो भी एक प्रावधान इसमें है. सो बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं.
Thank you. I think we will not even have the time for another question.
Just one. Yes.
Let us, okay.
Just one.
Keep it
Yes,
short, please. Yeah.
Yes, very short. I am Professor Tamsir Shahjahan from Anjuman Degree College, Murud. I just have one suggestion in NCrF that manners and etiquette should be included in as a part of curriculum. So, yes.
It is already there. You can go through it.
Sir,
मैं आपको बताना चाहूँगी कि एक एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी स्किल्स का मॉड्यूल हमने बनाया है विच वी मेड पार्ट ऑफ ऑल आवर वोकेशनल प्रोग्राम्स, जिसमें सब बहुत सारे 12 कंपोनेंट्स इंक्लूडेड हैं. सो इन अ वे आप कैसे अपने को कंडक्ट करते हैं, जॉब रेडीनेस कैसे होती है, पर्सनालिटी कैसे डेवलप होती है, ऑल दैट इज अ पार्ट ऑफ इट.
Professor Ghosh, one question from school education, please, because we've been waiting since a very long time.
Okay, one on school education. We have Miss School Education, please.
May I?
We are asking for school education, please.
Thank you so much, because we've been waiting our turn, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm Dr. Priya, Principal of Podar International School, Powai. So I have many questions which I'll be sending to Preeti ma'am, but my question to her is, very good addition to the framework where there's something for accelerated learners. Abhi ye provision nahi hai ki bacha, if the child is in grade 6 and is able to conquer everything up to grade 10, can still enter the grade 10 examinations. So how is the credit system actually going to be implemented at school level? So if you do have accelerated learners, will the board make provision for the learner to appear for the early board examination? If they clear the board examination, do they have entry into grade 11 and 12, because will the age factor, etc., come into place? Another question in continuation with that was, since you have multiple entry, multiple exit at university level or undergraduate level, children at school level also want to drop one subject. It's currently the facility is available only for CWSN candidates, that if you're unable to do math, or maybe other candidates who can drop standard math and take basic math. So will they have the opportunity to drop a subject and move on to another subject at various credit levels? Maybe up to 5 they may not, but then after that, will it be possible for them to switch subjects? And how will then that impact their admission to higher education institutes? Thank you for taking the questions.
Fine. Good to have that question. What I'll do, I'll answer the second part first. That is there any possibility that they can drop the subject or come in? See, if you look at the curriculum, even if at this point of time, it is very, very flexible. In 10 standards, you have these subjects, and then you can have a skill subject. Okay, and accordingly you can play with the subjects. Similarly, now it has been done, I think since 2017-18, that all the subjects in the secondary level, you have a basket. See, language is important because that comes under the scheme of study. So you have your basket where you have a language, you might have a second language depending how the scheme of studies goes. But other than that, ma'am, everything is, banned. Again, even the credit framework says that we have to look into the assessment band. So when a child is in 9th standard, 9th and 10th would be a bandwidth, so you can't play with the subjects there. But once that child, suppose a child, I'll just give you an example, a child has taken a food production course, one of the courses out of the entire basket, and has done in 9th and 10th, but is not interested in going in for 11th. So 11th, that child can really go for an FMM course or an automobile course or any other course, or he or she is shifting to some other area where the regional scene says, no, this is the course which is more, adaptable to that particular region, they can always change it. So that is always there, yeah. 6th, 7th, 8th, you have all the subjects. There's no such thing as the A subject or a B subject. The question of subjects come in when the kid starts going in for 9th and 10th. Even in 9th and 10th, you have all the subjects. 11th, 12th is the choice of subjects. See, बहुत interesting किसी ने question पूछा था, and I had a thought in my mind as a personal thought. अभी जब 12th करता है बच्चा, when the child completes 12th, इवन इन द कॉलेजेस आप किसी भी उससे हो, इंग्लिश ऑनर्स में भी एडमिशन मिलता है, ह्यूमैनिटीज़ के ब्रांच में भी आपको एडमिशन मिलता है. सो जस्ट वी हैव टू मेक आवर पर्सपेक्टिव अ लिटिल ब्रॉडर एंड अ स्पेक्ट्रम इज जस्ट द सेम. आई डोंट थिंक देयर वुड बी रियली मेजर चेंज ऑन दैट. फॉर दैट
आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट यू, अभी आप वेट करिए NCF का. इट इज़ कमिंग विद इन 2-3 months. Scenario is going to be changed completely. 5+3+3+4 हो रहा है, तो आप 10th और 12th की बात नहीं आप करेंगे. So when you are talking about कि इनका क्या क्रेडिट होगा, projects are going to be started from class 6 onwards. Community participation, community things, skills जो अभी रूरल सेक्टर की बात कर रहे थे, 103 वोकेशनल कोर्सेज, आप इजी एग्जिट और इजी एंट्री की बात कर रही थी. इन NIOS व्हेन स्टूडेंट टेक्स एडमिशन 5 साल के लिए उसका रजिस्ट्रेशन वैलिड होता है. कभी भी अपनी सुविधा के अनुसार वो एग्ज़ाम दे सकता है. ऑन डिमांड एग्ज़ाम का प्रोविजन है. वी कंडक्ट बोर्ड एग्जामिनेशन ट्वाइस इन अ ईयर, और उसमें भी अगर बच्चा तैयारी नहीं है उसकी तो वो अलग से कहता है कि ऑन डिमांड हम फॉर्म ऑनलाइन भरता है और उसका हम ऑन डिमांड एग्जाम कंडक्ट कराते हैं. सो दीज काइंड ऑफ प्रोविजंस विल बी देयर. ऑन डिमांड एग्जामिनेशन, 2 बार बोर्ड, क्रेडिट का एक्यूमुलेशन, और जो एंटायर पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ एजुकेशन, वी आर रिपीटेडली सेइंग दैट वी हैव टू चेंज द माइंडसेट. अभी हमें ये वो क्लासरूम का जो टिपिकल चल रहा है कि आपको इतने बजे से, उसको बिल्कुल बदलना होगा. NEP बिल्कुल अलग बात करती है. जो आप खेल रहे हैं दैट विल काउंट इनटू क्रेडिट. बच्चा कुकरी की क्लास ले रहा है, प्रोजेक्ट कर रहा है, जो को करिकुलर एक्टिविटीज़ हम करके करिकुलर को हटा देते हैं. अगर वो क्लास में कैप्टन है, इवन यू ऑल अग्री विथ मी कि अगर हम फॉरेन में किसी यूनिवर्सिटी में एडमिशन लेते हैं तो प्रोजेक्ट्स जो बच्चा करता है उसको वैल्यू मिलता है, मार्क्स को बहुत कम वैल्यू मिलता है. सेम इज गोइंग टू बी हैपन. क्रेडिट विल बी देयर फॉर एवरी एक्टिविटी विच स्टूडेंट इज परफॉर्मिंग इन स्कूल, और उसको क्वान्टिफाई करना है, और ये होगा बहुत जल्दी.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Experiential learning will be having in credit.
Yeah, we do have to conclude
My
this
question-
session. I'm really sorry. We do have to
Just one
conclude.
question, please.
See, they are all available with the email address given to all of us, shared with all of us.
I'll finish it very quickly.
Please send it as an email, or you can chat with them later on. We have a schedule we have to follow.
Dr. Agarwal has
Please.
mentioned.
Please, madam, please.
Dr. Agarwal has mentioned.
We'll have to conclude this session. I request our MC to conclude it.
Thank you so much, everyone. You've been a wonderful participation here. We are aware that there are a lot more questions. However, since we have limited time here, I'm just reiterating that all of you can send in your comments, suggestions, views on this mail ID, which is comments.ncrf@gmail.com. We would be really happy to receive lots of comments from you guys, all of you, and improve on this document. And thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience. Thank you.
Thank you, dear panelists. I now request our Chief Guest and Director of IIT Bombay to join us on the dais. We would like you, sir and ma'am, to kindly present some mementos to our panelists.
Yes, we here or there?
I think it's
Yes.
Sir, here. Ma'am, I'll just tell you a little about the memento. This memento carries the logo of IIT Bombay and Jnanam Paramam Dhyam, that is the motto of IIT Bombay. I'll just read out the names. Dr. Vinita Agarwal. Dr. Saroj Sharma. Dr. Avichal Kapoor. Lieutenant Colonel Gunjan Chaudhary. Mr. Nilambud Sharan. Professor Rajiv Kumar. Professor Vinay Swarup Mehrotra. I also request Shri Sandeep Jain ji from Ministry of Education to kindly join us on the dais, please. And lastly, Ms. Rohini Bhaji Bhakre, IAS PS2 Minister, ma'am. I now request Director Sir to kindly present a memento to also our Chief Guest, ma'am. Thank you very much. I now request Associate Dean AP, Professor Suvarna Kulkarni, to make the closing remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to make concluding remarks. In the interest of time, I'll keep it short. So everyone will agree with me that we have witnessed a very rigorous workshop today, which was very essential for the years to come. If I understand correctly, what this national credit framework is trying to do is they want the students to become the architect of their own education, right? And it also tries to creditize every small and all forms of education, let it be music, let it be sports, or let it be any other social activity. So in doing so, this credit framework is imparting a great flexibility to education, and this needs a different mindset, as said on this dais many times. And while doing this flexibility, how do we retain the rigor of education? That is going to be our skill, and that is something that we have to see while going ahead. As some people have already mentioned, that for implementation, we need to have a paradigm shift. It is not going to be a job of one day. As I foresee, probably we will start on a case-to-case basis when students approach us with their credit cards, with their transcripts having certain credits, and we'll have to map it. So initially it will be one-on-one mapping, then there will be some MOUs, and then probably it will establish the system. Also, it is sometimes difficult to classify the courses exactly as skill courses or as academic courses. So there are multiple challenges, and some institutes are at different level. Institutes like IITs, we already have credit frameworks, whereas some institutes are yet to begin. So this is, I should say, and I should congratulate this committee of National Credit Framework for taking a massive undertaking. And all of us, we are here to cooperate. And the institutes like IITs, if you need any help from us, we are there to offer our knowledge base. So with this, I would like to conclude today's session. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I missed out the name of Miss Neeti Shankar Sharma. I request our director, sir, to also present a memento to her. Yeah, okay. May I request our Dean International Relations, Professor Amit Agarwal, to give the vote of thanks. Also, I request all of you to kindly join for lunch in the first floor foyer after the program. Thank you.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So I think we had a wonderful workshop where we sort of heard how the academic education, vocational education, and experiential education can be all brought together. I would really like to thank our Minister of State for Education, Honorable Srimati Annapurna Devi ji, for spending so much time with us and for all her guidance. I think this workshop would not have happened without the guidance that we received from the Honorable Minister. I would also like to thank Shri Sandeep Jain, Deputy Secretary, Ministry of Education. I mean, he was instrumental in actually helping us put this program together. So really thank you, sir, for all your help and guidance. Next, I would like to thank Dr. Vinita Agarwal, Additional Secretary NCVET. She had made a wonderful presentation and again explained what exactly this framework, credit framework is. And of course, that attracted a lot of questions, which is good, and we can continue with some of these questions during the lunchtime as well. So there are a number of distinguished panelists here. Let me just thank all of them for their time and again explaining to us the entire the framework. And next, I would like to thank all the participants who have been here. Thank you. I know you have come from different cities. And accommodation in Mumbai is not always easy, so thank you for your taking the time out. And of course, interacting with all the panelists. Your questions are very valuable, and of course, they will help frame a better policy for everybody. Of course, I would like to thank the registrar for the overall coordination of the program at IIT's B's end, the director for, again, the help and the guidance that he provided to the institute. The PRO and our team for the stage management and steering the entire program. The security for ensuring smooth entry to the campus. Mr. Davulkar from the hospitality and his hospitality team for food and accommodation and the other arrangements for the distinguished guests. And finally to CD for recording this event. So with this, we come to the end of this program. I would request all of you to join for lunch in the first floor here. Thank you.